Wow.
A word to the wise. We are an explicit podcast tackling content with adult themes, as well as entering spoiler territory if you aren't caught up with us, which is through chapter 43 of Jade War.
Jade War. Hey there, this is Cross.
And I'm PJ.
And I'm Ben.
I'm Aaron. Hey.
And I am Thomas.
And we are Words and Whiskey, a podcast for veteran and novice readers alike. We tackle fiction novels and love to talk about what we're drinking. You should think of us as your intoxicating weekly book club. Hey Aaron, how are you?
Great. Just got back from Jazz Fest.
Woohoo.
Nice.
In New Orleans. That's not how
How's
they talk. Exhausting. It was exhausting. You know, when you're 35, it's harder to recover from such debauchery.
I saw some like
3:30
a.m. stories. And,
yes.
You know, it was great.
I want everyone to know that I would not stay up that late ever, except for my husband, like, will not leave the bar. So I just have to stay and make sure he doesn't die.
It's very
the
nice.
Spirit of jazz took you.
And the jam, you're watching a jam band. They go in at 1:30. By the time they end, it's 4 a.m. And you're like, well, where'd all the time go? It's like being in a casino. You don't know what time it is.
Want to go get breakfast?
Yeah. We had a sketchy Uber situation where I brought my New York out and screamed at him and told us to let us out of the car.
Wow.
So
He wouldn't let you leave?
I was like, I'm going to fucking kill you. So he finally pulled over.
Wow.
Yeah. He was
looping around in circles, or what was he?
He was like either on opioids or falling asleep or something. He like ran a red light and swerving. So I just started like screaming.
Just not a safe driver.
I'm like, I am drunk and I could drive way better than
Yeah, why don't you pull over? Let me drive.
So we got out in like a dark alleyway in New Orleans. I was like, well, now we're probably going to get murdered, but at least we're not getting in a car crash.
I mean, improvement. Glad you made it safe to the show. Would have been a really dour note to start on.
And I'm dead.
Aaron's in the hospital.
In memoriam.
In the hospital with
all I want
murder
to say
wounds.
is, even if you're drunk, pay attention.
Mhm.
True.
Always
Very
be
true.
aware. Head on a swivel, especially when you're in a strange city.
That's true.
Be safe out there, kids. Don't do drugs.
Good call. Today is our 6th episode. We're going to be chatting about chapters 37 through 43. But before we do that, Ben, you've got our featured cocktail.
I do.
Talk us through.
What's it called, Ben?
It's called Surprise. I got an abortion and didn't tell you. You look like you need a drink. It's a really good name.
That's the whole name.
Oh my God.
It's light and
It's beachy.
lovey, beachy. Yeah, I love a fruit and fizz type situation.
Who doesn't?
So it's got 4 ounces of pineapple orange juice. I bought that at the store.
Great job.
I just,
Good work.
you could do whatever you want there. You could
Before
pick
I
out
for-
your own favorite juice.
Before I forget it, I feel like you could have called it Fruit and Fizz.
That's true, but I think my name is better.
Okay.
It's got 2 ounces of vodka in it. And then it's got some lime juice. There's an orange slice in there. And then it's over ice. I just kind of stirred it around and topped it off with some club soda for the fizz portion, it's lovely.
It's very nice.
I made it up.
Refreshing.
That orange slice
Nice.
is going to go so hard. Once you eat it,
Let me
it's gonna be
remind you,
delicious.
it's called Surprise, I Got an Abortion and Didn't Tell You You Look Like You Need a Drink.
More like, surprise, I got an abortion. Didn't tell you. You look like you need a drink.
I see.
Kind of
It's
like
all in the
inflection at the end, too, in a great way. I'm imagining this on Thomas's card, and it's going to be a monster to get it to fit.
I got it. We already workshopped it, and it came to me, and it's brilliant, and I will not be taking notes.
Nice.
We
Nice.
can't move on either without talking about Thomas's new fade. Sick fade, bro.
No, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
To do the new, fresh cut, like Jason Tatum said, when I did a fresh cut, I feel like I'm top 5. So let's have a good one.
10 out of 5.
Perfect. 10 out of 5. Awesome.
Thank you, Aaron.
With that, PJ, what are you?
Well, I have a few things to talk about right now. First of all, does anybody have a shot in front of them?
I did.
No.
I fully poured one.
Okay. Well, I'm going to do that
Cheers.
with Crossland, Ben.
Clink.
Yeah. Vodka.
Blinky. Drinking, I made a spicy pineapple margarita. And
Yum.
back half beer is Merriest Dankster, triple IPA from
Dankster?
Merriest Dankster.
That's fire.
From Great Notion.
That's just good wordplay.
It's got an old dude with a large beard on a flower bus.
Aw, he's cute.
So it's pretty.
Psychedelic.
Very psychedelic. Crossland, what are you drinking?
Because I'm the one who was rushing around and made us a little bit late, I didn't have time to make a cocktail, so I'm having a kitten biscuit from Wilmington Brewing Company. I'll probably have a second one in the pack.
Meow.
So,
Meow.
meow. It's delicious. It's a. I forget. This is the double because Lion Cake is the triple. Yeah.
Triple
Yeah.
beer.
So, IPA. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thick.
Yes. Thomas, that leaves you. What are you having?
As I think everybody knows, I'm a whiskey guy. Love a whiskey. I recently purchased my first rye whiskey. It's Noble Oak from distillery in Ohio. And it's pretty smooth like a bourbon, but then all of a sudden, fucking spicy. It's like a hot sauce kind of where it creeps up on you. And it's real nice. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I think I've
Tried
had
me
that
as
one.
a starter rye, like get you into it. And I had like a taste test at the liquor store I was at.
Mhm.
Nice.
It's good.
I think I've had that one on this show before. It's really, really nice.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's weird because like at first you're like, oh, this is bourbon, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, this is not bourbon.
It's herby. It's spicy. It's got the I love rye. I prefer rye cocktails generally, but each their own. I feel like sipping it.
Here's the thing, cutting
right.
season, beach season coming up. Can't be having all these fruity cocktails, all this extra sugar, extra carbonation, extra carbs in the drinks. Going lean.
Alternatively, you could just work out for 3 hours a day, like I've been lately.
Some of us have real jobs.
Those are options. I do have a real job.
I know, but I gotta get my dates in when I can.
Yeah, all right. Fair enough. Fair point. Cool. Before we talk about the chapters, how'd you guys feel about this week? This week is it's a week. It's the weakest of weeks.
It
took a
felt
breath.
like a transition week for the most part.
Looked like felt like we caught our breath after
Some like movement, some
restorative yoga type
politicking.
situation. Yeah.
I just felt relieved that Barrow was actually dead. Or seemingly actually dead.
How do we know?
I don't know about that.
We were talking to Miles
Mudt was
about it,
talking-
and he said like that it seemed kind of like how Lon went out. Like it wasn't necessarily definitive until we, got the funeral.
That was a good point.
It was
for
like,
those
I'm
uninitiated,
drifting away.
Sorry. For those uninitiated, who is Miles?
Miles, our best friend.
He's a wonderful artist who drew a bunch of stuff for our podcast, Red Rising Characters.
Howlerpod.
And he's also drawn some great art for this podcast. He drew
And other books as well.
Hilo. That was really cool. Miles is awesome. M. Bensky design.
M. Bensky or Miles Bensky on Instagram.
M. Bensky, I believe.
It's M. Bensky Designs. It'll also be in the links down below. It has been over the last couple of episodes that we've mentioned him, so you can always
He also
find
helped
him
on the Red
there.
Rising board game, too.
We're like totally
Yeah.
obsessed with him. Yeah, he did some cards and designs for the Red Rising board game.
He's basically the man.
He's also a scientist.
Fucking
So,
and a really good
The
time.
man.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Miles.
hey, Miles.
Hey, Miles, you're listening to this right now. We all love you.
We're not obsessed with you. Shut up.
You're obsessed with us.
Yeah, what do you mean? Gosh. All right. But overall, we felt good. We felt good about this week. Part of the breakdown rationale was like we had talked about schemes. This is all schemes, lots of unfolding of things. It is definitely a breath, though, compared to sort of the claustrophobia of last week.
This all feels like it's a lot of setup for the end of the book and maybe the next book as well.
Cool.
Table setting.
Also,
Yeah.
I felt bad for Mudt.
Not really.
They could have just shot him in the face.
Oh, he's fine.
Thieves get it bad, man. We're definitely going to talk about that.
And with that, let's get into our chapters. And PJ, it's going to take some Cracker Jack timing.
Oh, yeah.
What the fuck does that mean?
What? I don't understand. All right. Chapter 37, Threat and Schemes. think it's threats and schemes. I think I typed that wrong. Chapter 37, Threats and Schemes. Make Ken opens a shipping crate containing a dismembered rat inside sent from Zapunio. Hilo and Ken make some schemes undermining some of the successor families within the mountain. Meanwhile, Maro is accosted by a half-Shatarian thug asking for a meeting to be set up with the calls due to his connection to Shay. Obviously, this rat that's dismembered isn't like a little tiny animal, but it's a white rat. It is a full body separated into many tiny pieces.
Including the penis.
The cock, as it were. Yeah.
Yes. I feel like
specifically Hibby.
They are doing an okay job of recognizing that Zapunio is like accelerating things and becoming a threat, but then other things happen and they just keep not dealing with it. I feel like they're just letting Zapunio fester for a little while, and like I think that's a mistake. I think they're spread pretty thin though.
They're
true.
doing what they can.
That's true.
And in the end of the book, they explain why, Hilo, they can't go to where's Zapunio live?
Uiwa.
Tipaswiga in the Uiwa.
Yeah, because of him killing all the cops. So he can't take care of Zapunio because he can't get over there.
Yeah.
It was a bad deal. One problem at a time. Too many problems.
I got 99 problems, but Zapunio is definitely the biggest one. Hit me.
Or at the very least, like the second biggest one behind Ait. We'll give Ait the credit she deserves, but Zapunio is definitely festering. There's a little quote here too that I really appreciated, and it's just a small thing. This chapter again focuses predominantly from Meg Ken's perspective until we flip into Maro's for the first time. But the quote: Zapunio has plenty of dirty money and cheap lives, but if he can't get Jade out of Kcon and move it to buyers, he doesn't have a business. And the dirty money and cheap lives, I don't know what it was about that, but in particular, just hit me right that like he'll expend whatever it takes to get what he wants.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking Jade thieves, man. No Aisho.
Correct.
Good work. No respect for Aisho whatsoever.
Not beholden to it in the first place, but I don't think he'd be respectful of it even if he was. So
it's fair. He seems to have some sort of sense of like a code, maybe, but it's his own code predominantly.
Can you explain that?
So
can you
what I mean is that he operates on his own. Like, okay, so think about my brain immediately went after I said it to like the lawful system in D&D, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like he has a code. But it is his own.
I understand what you mean there, but where are you getting that idea from? Because I don't think I've seen him do anything that isn't entirely self-serving.
I think, well, it is in the end all self-serving, right? But that doesn't mean that it's not like his code isn't to serve himself, but he does so within reason to also support the community where he can. Like he's building up the nation as sort of a rival clan in Tipaswiga on the whole.
Okay.
Are you a Zapunio sympathizer?
Not at all. Not at all, for the record.
Seems
I was
like
more or less saying that like he has
Zapinthesizer.
some...
He's a good propagandist. We give him that.
Right. The other side of this that we get into with Make Ken is the strategic moves that Hilo is making in the... what is it, Poor Man's Row, the gambling houses to push out the prostitution and to also advertise mountain businesses to move the problematic business of the Espenians over to them. Of course, this is also moves against the family of Aitmata and the inheritors eventually, perhaps. What do you think of all of those moves and schemes?
I thought it was quite clever. Jurassic Park clever girl type situation. It's kind of an outflanking. Yeah, that was good. I thought it was good. This was something where I was like, oh, that's impressive.
Get those Espenian foreigners out of our
So we don't have to deal with them anymore.
whorehouses.
Yeah.
Yeah, $1 isn't $1. I mean, they're still like redirecting them to brothels, and they do have brothels, but it's like the street pimps that were on the road, right? Were the big ones that they moved away.
Hey man, sex work is work. What are you saying?
No, but not all of it's clan work. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah. Who's paying the clan? Probably not the pimps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do we think about that strategic setup to undermine the Coben family, as it were, as well? The dumb broads.
Was that don't kill the kid or the mom, but kill the uncle?
That is ultimately one of the decisions that's made here as well, is like kill one of them, whispering one of their names.
I thought it was funny just how like blasé that whole conversation was.
Make it look like an accident.
Very casual murder conversation.
You don't have to make sure he's dead, but it'd be nice if he was.
Does this count as a whispered name because they're explicitly going not the Greenbone route and trying not to like be tied to it? Still counts.
No, I think that it's still a whispered name, and they do say whisper one of their names. And if we compare, the comparison inside of this book is when Barrow and Mudt are almost hired to kill someone, right? They're not Greenbones, or when like the job with Lon, etc.
Right.
Although that wasn't a whispered name, but the job that they turned down.
That was a whispered name. That was.
Yeah.
Yep.
PJ, are you thinking
So-
of like the difference when they come down from the mountain, maybe, and how it's like more overtly violent?
I was thinking that a whispered name went to all of the Greenbones within the clan as like an open bounty,
Gotcha.
as opposed to I want this guy subtly assassinated
Mhm.
without clan ties.
Understood.
There's also the leak of what Iwe Kalundo's family, of which we're given a little bit of detail on too, where they appear to not have the best ties as we get into some media manipulation that Hilo is also playing into, which is just another moment
I am
of nice.
currently rereading Golden Sun and got to the point of media manipulation in that at the same time as this chapter. So that was interesting, trying to keep everything straight in my head.
Totally.
Yeah, we're doing all the money moves, as it were, trying to be as schemy as I. So we'll see if it helps. Hope it does.
So we move from these schemes to Maro, and holy fuck, this like whole thing is just, it's only a couple of pages, if that, but it is just a lot. Screw the guy that's talking to him. Like, this is just crazy and a lot of pressure. I'm kind of wondering where you guys think that he came from. Who's he working for? What's that sort of situation look like?
He seemed to come out of nowhere and then not come back.
Do we think this is Zapunio related?
I don't know. They seem like weird crime lords.
This would be my guess. My guess is that he's Zapunio related, but
I pictured this guy looking like the sunglasses guy from The Matrix.
sunglasses
The
guy.
main evil guy.
Oh,
A lot of them wear sunglasses. Yeah, that's what I was going to.
The guy that
Agent Smith. Yeah.
Agent Smith.
Oh, I was imagining a more gangstery type guy.
I picture him like skinny and older,
Gotcha.
and with like slicked back, not full head of
Gnarled
hair.
knuckles as well. Like he's a little war torn. Is kind of the way that he's described, I think, too.
And there's Shotarian, it seems like. Or
Yeah.
connected to Shotarian.
And
People.
that was so heavy-handed, and I don't know if that was just the guy trying to like make a statement about Maro's like Shatarian side of him. Did Aitmata have ties to the Shatarians right now, or is it just the Yucatan and Yuiwan?
Predominantly that.
Okay.
It's because of there's a lot of distance between Shatar and Kakon because of the occupation.
Right.
So that's not something that I would likely associate with.
And he explicitly, he's a gangster, so we can't take his, word at face value, but he does say he's not connected to the mountain, right? Yeah. And I don't know why, but I felt like I trusted that for some reason. So it seems to me like he's either connected to Zapunio or he's connected to a entirely new group that we're going to meet here at some point.
Everyone wants some Jade.
And an introduction to Shay, right? So
Right.
Or the
That's-
calls to Shay
The calls,
specifically.
yeah. I think it's to the call, the call
Yeah.
family. We would like to set up
Mhm.
a meeting. So, yeah.
Weird to go
Yeah.
through him they seem to know pretty decently what's going
Very
on.
weird.
Can't they, like, if they know so much, can they, like,
All of this just
call
it
him?
struck me as like, where the fuck did this come from?
It does seem weird.
There's also like the comment that he throws off offhandedly of like, "Are you still fucking Shay?" or whatever. Something similar to that. It's just like, whoa, dude, like coming on so strong.
Like PJ said, very heavy
Call
handed.
woman, yeah, very little tact.
I mean, that makes sense. So they're dealing with a pretty boy professor. Play up the
Yeah,
gangster
came
bits.
in strong arming him.
As sort of a final note here, any thoughts on what Maro should do? Any thoughts on what he will do?
Probably the wrong thing. Whatever it is.
He said fuck off, so that was good. So I think the next step is they're gonna like torture him or something.
Yeah, he's gonna get himself in trouble. And he's gonna need to be saved, like the little damsel in distress that he is.
I think what he will do is entirely put it out of his mind. And I think what he should do is just tell Shay what happened and let them run with it from there. I think that's the only real course of action that keeps him safe.
Yeah, it's weird. In that last chapter with him, at first I was like, who does he want Hilo to meet with? And then I was like, oh, it's not
that doesn't seem correct.
It's not the gangster guy. So I was like, why didn't he tell her?
Do you think that it's a front? But he was already seemed like he's really involved with that, so I don't know.
No, that
Yeah,
seems
he
like
just gets
charity
back
work.
at the beginning of this from the Four Virtues
Yeah.
international thing. So
But also like Maro, read the room.
there's a lot of that this week. There's a lot of read the room going on. Cool. All right.
Moving into chapter 38. Not the real thing. Mudt, sweet, dumb, idiot baby Mudt, goes to a pub in Janloon, feeling good about his new jade taken from Barrow, wearing it loudly and proudly. After running his mouth a little too much, he attempts to put those in the bar at ease before leaving, but his presence and boasts don't go unnoticed by the bartender. So Mudt, who to my eye always seemed the more rational, discreet of the pairing with Barrow, just engaging in some absolute buffoonery here.
This is very bad.
Yeah.
Not well played.
He's not good at pickup lines.
That too, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
what
like,
an
"Mudt,
insecure
you're
little
scaring
baby."
the hose.
Yeah.
He knows how to handle himself amongst other greenbones, I think, better than Barrow did. But that doesn't mean he knows like what to do in social situations in general. On top of that, he's a drunk teenager. Like I think this could have gone a lot worse for him than it already did.
It goes pretty badly.
It does. That's true. But like he could have gotten his face smashed in right here.
That probably would have been
But
better, though.
who was the guy they were working for? He had already said, like, you're showing off too much jade. Then they're just showing off
the
more.
horn of the mountain.
And it's like, you're too young to have that much jade. So clearly you stole it.
Yeah. This is just so dumb.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he gets what he deserves. I feel like you're being that freaking dumb in this type of society.
I won't be surprised if Barrow shows back up.
You're going to be buried alive, and I'm not going to feel sorry for you.
Well, I thought you were talking metaphorically, and then obviously I remember what happens later, and it's like, yeah, okay. Metaphorically buried alive? No, literally.
No.
Okay, got it. Cool.
It's like hiding or like parking a stolen supercar in front of your house without leaving town.
Yeah. Just so bad.
There is an interesting tidbit here, though, where even despite his obvious youth and, the very, very, very high likelihood that this means it was stolen, his insane amount of jade does earn him respect initially, where the bartender looks at him and is like, this is a fucking kid. And he's like, I guess I'll just give him a beer. He must be a greenbone if he's rocking this much jade.
And shrimp.
And battered shrimp. Yep. Of course. And then the super drunk girl thinks he's a fist at first, but her friends are like, nah. Nah.
Couldn't be.
All right, through that. You know what they say about guys that wear a lot of jade?
Small dicks.
Small dick. Tiny micropenis. Also, maybe under 18.
Definitely under 18.
Child. Drunk child.
So what do we
this
think
was
about...
just
Oh, sorry, Ben, you go.
no, you're fine. I was just adding that this was just all around such a horrible idea on Mutt's part. Shouldn't even gone there.
So I have a question, I guess, based on that assessment, and then also, you know, he has these ruminations on poisoning Barrow and his guilt over that. Do we think maybe this like public display of his jade and the recklessness tied to that is in some way tied to his guilt over Barrow?
He must have absorbed some of Barrow's stupidity in the process from his jade. But yeah, I do think there is probably...
Well, now he's lonely. He has no one to talk to.
Right.
So he's kind of like searching and he's wayward. So I don't know if it's about the guilt. I think it's more about he's got nowhere else to go.
I think that's the right read on it. I don't think he cares that he killed Barrow at all. I think he just doesn't have anyone to talk to anymore.
He's sad he doesn't have any friends.
You know, that's what
Don't
happens.
kill your friends, bro.
Well,
Very Smeagol Gollum-ish esque.
Yeah.
Gollum, I mean. Another thing I want to point out here is Mutt's description of Jade, because I love a description of Jade. I liked when we did all the new different people reacting to it and how it feels, what it does to their body. The jade around Mutt's neck felt warm and heavy. It moved and rolled on his skin like something alive that gave life. And the gave is specifically emphasized in the text. Didn't stick out to anyone. Okay. My bad, guys. My bad.
No.
I only listened to it.
Okay.
I wonder if there's any comparisons that can be made or attributes that are given by, I don't know. I'm trying to make a connection to Lon. Like, this is his jade. It's living, it's alive, it's giving life to somebody, and it's the same essence going through Barrow and going through Mutt. And like, I don't know. It's a stretch. I don't have anything to stand on there, but
I just took it as a very like drug addict-y thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good read on it, I think. He's clearly in that mindset. I don't know. He feels it in a way that, like, Jade and Hilo and Shay don't really describe Jade that way.
They have a lot of it.
Right, but they're way more used to it.
Hilo kind of talks
Does
about
give you
that
powers.
towards the end. And when he's like pulling off the 3 pieces and
That's
comments
true.
on like the changes that you go through after acquiring more and more and more. And like when he got these pieces, it was so much more meaningful than what it is to lose them now.
yeah, absolutely. I think that's also one of the things that is just continually described throughout this is sort of the way that new people and how they react to Jade. And I think, especially when we get into it a little bit later, it's a big point of Hilo's to the bosses.
So there's another thing which Dan gets just to Tetanese culture, and it's who can and can't wear jade, and how Mutt has just internalized that and has that self-loathing sort of just ingrained within himself. That stand out to anybody?
Definitely, yeah.
I think he has a pretty, depressing like outlook on himself, but also just his a warped perception of who his dad was and what his dad did. And there's an innocence there, but there's also just like, at this point, pretty blatant, like intentional ignorance from like the full scope of what his father was doing. And maybe that's gnawing at him a little bit, is like, he has to realize what his dad was doing. He wasn't just a shop owner that got killed by the Makes. He was absolutely interfering in clan business and just constantly lying to himself to like make it seem righteous, this like vengeance that he has. I don't know.
So
No, it's really well said.
I mean, he was dealt a very shitty hand in life, and, you know, it's easy to see why he's so angry and vengeful. You know, he was never really given a chance to do anything, meaningful.
I wonder
or to
if
not be a dirtbag.
I wonder
And
if
he sees the Jade as the way out there.
I wonder if his inflated perception of his dad comes from sort of his status in like the even deeper criminal underworld, where like when we first meet him, Barrow thinks of him as a self-made man and how he's like someone who earned green in a world that told him he couldn't. So I feel like that, and then obviously it's his dad as well. So there's
I can't blame him for like thinking his dad is a hero or whatever.
Or
That's
just
his dad.
loving his dad and
Yeah.
Just
being,
loves his da.
upset that someone murdered him.
Yeah, it's okay that he doesn't think his dad's a dirtbag, even though his dad was a dirtbag. But at the same time,
Yeah, you got to understand. Was it Make Tar or
Yeah.
Ken?
Tar,
It was Tar.
Just doing his job, man.
Yeah. I mean, you fuck around in that world.
Fuck around, you find out.
Yeah, you're gonna find out at some point.
And they both, all the Mutts found out.
He got. That's part of the game that he's playing. So I think that I understand why he's mad about that. And it's not necessarily a fair game, but like that's the game that he decided to play. So.
And he's also like young and naive enough to have not realized, to like have time and to take a moment and to like sit back and be like, okay, what actually was my dad?
Yeah.
Like instead, he's just consumed because he's a child on the concept and by the concept of revenge.
Sees himself as
Sucks to suck.
Inigo Montoya, but I don't think that quite
The
works here.
He is
shittiest
not.
Inigo Montoya you've ever seen.
Did you know Mandy Patinkin went to KU?
Oh, really?
Did not.
And he was there when my dad was there.
Wow.
Nice.
So
Is he
Were they
aware
friends?
now?
no, Mandy Patinkin
I was
was
going to make that joke.
older than my dad, and my dad remembers him being like the star in all the plays. Of course,
Of course.
you killed my father. Prepare to die.
To die. Love that.
All right.
All right.
So
Go ahead.
there's the final, Mudt damns himself here with his brag about after getting set off by the mention of, are you a Tall? And he's like, you know where I got my Jade? Fucking off of Talon's corpse. Everyone freaks out. Where did you guys think this was going when it happened? Obviously, we know where this ends and how it ends for our guy Mudt, but is that where immediately you were like, guy's screwed?
I thought he was dead.
Yeah, I thought the bartender was calling the calls.
Even before the end of the chapter, when it's like the bartender went off and called, like that point, you really know. But even when he said it, I was like, oh, no, that's nope. You cannot be doing that.
I was thinking though, if this really is the end for Barrow and Mudt, it made me think like, why did Fonda spend so much time with these ass fuckers if they're just gonna die like the weeds they are with a little raid weed killer?
I think it does a good job of showing the other side of Jade usage outside of the clans, while still like letting us be invested because it's connected to the Cull family. But we kind of get some insight into the criminal underbelly of Jade smuggling. That was my takeaway from it. If this is
I
truly
think
the end of them,
that's a good viewpoint on the new green aspect of the culture. And I still think Barrow's coming back.
Yeah. Now
Mutt's
that
not
Mutt's
dead yet either.
I know. I'm like, is Barrow gonna save Mutt? I said Maro. Oh my God.
Maybe.
There are
Oh,
Arrow
yeah.
just shows up.
names.
All
That's
the
it.
names.
There's
Well, I
two
mixed
tiny little
Barrow Mutt
pebbles.
into Maro.
Moot wouldn't deserve it.
Maybe he wants to kill him himself.
Could
Maybe.
be. Seems like just the kind of revenge that Barrow would want to get, especially from the grave. Okay, with that, chapter 39, A Meeting of the Pillars. Hilo and Maektar arrive in Port Massey, here to visit the Dauks and Andon. After dinner, the Pillars chat for hours, Hilo armed with many questions and a desire to help out Dauks with their crew issue. After, Hilo, Tar, and Andy share a drink. All right, chapter 39, A Meeting of Pillars. Hilo and Mektar arrive in Port Massey, here to visit the Dowks and Andon. After dinner, the Pillars chat for hours, Hilo armed with many questions and a desire to help out the Dowks with their issue with the cruise. After, Hilo, Tar, and Andy share a drink and a quick catch-up chat. I love this chapter. It's kind of nice to get like a slice of life perspective and just kind of have a chill moment with Hilo and Tar for once, being able to do stuff that isn't super intense. The conversation has its moments at dinner, but it's never more than passing, I think. But one of the coolest parts that I really liked is a view into the larger life of Roan Toro, to kind of see that moment and get a little bit more feeling for where he's at, his daughter, living a couple of hours away, and just sort of all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was, I think, my favorite chapter this week.
I didn't expect him to be a family man.
Well, a divorced family man, apparently.
Yeah, that's true.
And he said he wasn't a very good father.
Makes sense.
Probably because he's a thug.
Wow. That's a little rude.
It's harsh.
He deserves better than that. He said he owes the Dowks Dowks debt, He's got like a Chewbacca life debt thing going on.
But I liked
You're very right. Sorry.
What?
The Chewbacca joke. That laughs. I'm sorry.
I like the Andon describing like his two worlds colliding and that making him anxious. I think we've all probably had that happen. Like if your, work friends meet your school friends, or
for sure. I did like that call out for sure, and the way that it was described, just kind of like the two sides meeting each other and how weird that is, and how we've all experienced that. That's a good point.
Yeah. It's not something that you'd kind of expect in context. It's also very easy to like blend these three chapters together, 39, 40, and 41, because it is the meat of the week in a big way. So I don't want to jump too far ahead, but I also really appreciate the way that we, over the course of these predominantly 39 and 41, see how Andon has really changed over the course of 2 years. How time has made him an adult. I mean, conceivably. Still has some issues, but he's not the emo teen that he was, necessarily.
Just an anxious college student.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely grown up. I'll give that to Andy.
I feel like
Hell yeah.
I can see that to a certain degree,
But he's still got a lot of Andy in him.
He's still definitely Andon, and a lot of the fixes that I want to talk about don't happen until 41, so I don't want to drag into that too much, because it's definitely the biggest part of 41. But yeah, I just wanted to say, like, over the course of the week, you see that. You start to see moments of that here. He's still insecure. It's just that he actually has a life that he's made, grown, and owned, which is different.
Well, that's good for him.
There's a little quote here that I just really like when they're in the airport between Roan Toro and Tar. Roan and Tar greeted each other with perfectly equal shallow salutes, like a meeting between two dogs of the same size. And I laughed.
I thought that was like offensive, calling them dogs.
I mean, it's just this idea of like not necessarily that they are dogs, right? But that they. I can see how that could be constrained that or cut
construed.
Yes, construed that way. But I don't know. I like the idea of like sniffing each other's butts, basically. One of the things that I also really enjoy about this week, this chapter, is that when we do finally get out to kind of the calm scene in the car, we get to see kind of Port Massey in a larger way, in a different context, from a tourist point of view, almost from Hilo's perspective. And it really gives this interesting combination of London and New York City energy. There's like the garish orange buses that they mention. There's obviously the sort of towering skyscrapers that they know the names of. It feels very different from anything in KCON.
I pictured it like going to England and you're like gawking at the buses.
I was picturing double-decker buses as well.
Yeah.
Like they're driving on the wrong side. They didn't say that, but it's the wrong side.
Yeah, the buses are the most direct call out between the two. Just like the idea of like, what? Why orange? But also, why red?
High visibility.
Maybe. Iconic.
Marketing.
So there is we make it to the dinner, and there's a lot obviously that goes on over the course of the dinner that we can definitely talk about here. But I appreciate that there's this moment where Andon and Corey kind of break away and they're talking for a second, and there's this visual of expectation that Corey paints, expecting like something very different of a true Kekanese pillar to be like just this sort of gold chain decked out like literal gangster, like early thousands LA movie depicted gangster. And it's just very different than that expectation, which is, I think, interesting compared to the media and the images that they're given.
Yeah, he's expecting like Scarface.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also appreciate that even halfway across the world, Hilo during this dinner throws shade at Shay for being like the youngest child and getting away with everything.
Yeah. There's a lot of good moments that happen over the course of the dinner. And were there any particular standout moments for you guys during their conversation at the table?
I thought the Andon kind of being annoyed with Corey for getting up was telling. Like, Andon still clearly cares a lot about respect and, you know, following the way of the clan. And Corey's like, you know, bored and washing dishes.
Yeah, loser.
He's like, can't believe the disrespect to his, you know, pillar uncle. Shows some rifts in the relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's starting to get a little weird between them, I feel like. And we'll get into some of that. But just like some of the lines coming back and forth, like, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that relationship develops. I was also hungry during this part when I was reading it. And
getting the description of the food.
Yeah. I was really wanting to sit down. I was wishing that I was sitting down at the table with like 12 courses.
I would have helped out.
Sounds like a good meal.
In the stead of her other children and like gotten those other 2 dishes on the table. Like, if that means I can eat all 14 of those dishes, I'm down.
I know. I would just love for someone to cook 12 different dishes for me.
Mm-hmm.
Be frankly ridiculous and awesome. And like, also, how silly is it? And I know that it's definitely like the right hand man kind of thing to do, but that fact that both Tar and Roan don't like really eat that much is like, God damn, like, you're kidding me. This is a feast.
They're on high alert.
You are big, burly men.
Also, Ben, you have had multiple dishes. It's called tapas.
Oh, I know. I love tapas. Yeah.
Regarding Roan and Mate, here's the thing. You gotta stay ready, so you don't gotta get ready. You have each course of this succulent food. You got your belly's heavy, a little warm in there. You know, they got soup going on, they got tea going on, you got a warm belly.
Like little Corey.
You're not ready to fight. Soup belly trying to fight all of a sudden? That's not ideal.
That is true.
I only fight with soup belly. I don't know what you're talking
That's
about.
why you're 0-16.
But I still show up. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still there.
He's no fucking Maro, I'll tell you that.
That's for
I mean, sometimes you got to reapproach your lucky soup ritual before fights. Like, it's just not working for you, man.
What bit is this?
This is why you're such a piss boy. You eat liquids.
My God. All right, we've fully shifted. I love it. The conversation does shift in a moment to the children, of course. PJ brought up earlier the comparisons. I appreciate, just from a perspective with Gila, the way that he brings up the fact that he has 2 sons, even though obviously we learned a little bit later that he requires Nico to call him uncle so that he makes sure that he remembers his father. And just that sort of like subtle delineation, I think, is really well done throughout the chapters this week.
I have a hard time getting sentimental about kidnapping, but
And murder.
Yeah. It was.
Here's the deal. It already happened. We can't do anything about it.
Here's the other deal. Erroneous on both points.
I was am I wrong in the assessment that like Andon already knew about this, but we didn't see him learn about this? I was really expecting
He got a letter.
Oh, he did get a
He
letter.
didn't know about
He
the
had
murder.
photos also.
It was pretty
He
quick.
does
but,
not
yeah.
know about the murder.
Okay.
It's like they died, so we picked him up.
It's like a house fire or something.
Yeah,
Shit.
Gotcha. I missed that. Because I think this
It
could have
was
been
mentioned pretty quickly.
kind of a fun, like, he's 3 years old. I've been here for 2 years. What?
Amen.
Never mind. Forgot about the letter.
Yeah.
Also, nobody's like,
intro.
what happened? Do we need to like read a news article about that or like?
I think when your family's full of killers, you don't ask a lot of questions.
That's just
Seems like the
I don't know.
important people know, and the rest are like, yeah, that sucks. Well, whatever.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow, Lon's kid is here. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Like the air.
He showed up.
How fortunate that you found Lon's kid.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
like
Is he in a gutter? Like, where was he?
That's pretty sweet. His family sent him back. Nice.
I mean, this gets back. We don't need to reopen the wound, but it gets back to the like Annie was shamed and like it's yeah. She should have by clan rules should have died before even giving birth. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Nico's back where he belongs, if you ask me. Raised with
I mean,
green bones who
Doesn't mean
care
that it
about
got
him.
there the right way necessarily, but yeah, I understand.
Necessarily.
I'm playing.
I don't think
I'm
we
playing
need
the
a
cautious
cautious
card.
qualifier for that.
Let's
I'm
relitigate
just- I'm-
it. Here's the thing. What's the worst thing you can do in Tayton? Is it steal? From
Kill-
Hilo's point of view, is
kill
she stealing a
innocent mothers.
child?
I ain't no thief.
They don't
Yeah,
care
but
about killing mothers as much as thievery.
Yeah, and like
It's fairly true.
violence on non-green people.
Listen, sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
And he did both of those things.
I guess the devil's advocate argument for that is that he sees Nico as belonging to the Call family. So how can you steal something that belongs to you in the first place?
I meant Annie is stealing him. So
Ah, there you
the
go.
penalty for
Okay.
theft is death. And it doesn't matter if you're a greenbone or not.
Mhm.
If you steal, you get
Yeah.
dead.
Get cut, KK. Different cut.
And are
All
you
right.
arguing that she absconded with like Lon's sperm?
Well, with his love, and it just so happened that she was pregnant.
Can I,
Anyway,
PJ, before I answer that, can I rewatch Legally Blonde and then I'll come back?
we'll come back with an answer. Excellent. Love it. Anything else from the dinner? Anything else that we wanted to bring up about their conversation? There's obviously, I guess the only other part of the conversation that I forgot to bring up is, and it predominantly is tackled in the next chapter, so we don't have to talk about it too much, but there's a conversation about wanting to talk with the bosses, and this really catches the kind of table off guard. Dowk doesn't think it's a good idea, explaining kind of the racism in the war and the police and kind of everything that's going on, and giving the up and up from pillar to pillar, in quotes, as we learn kind of later from Hilo's perspective. But
Did you bring up which side of the table Andon sits at during the conversation?
I didn't, but he sits on Hilo's side of the table, the
Mhm.
family side.
And we
I know
also
that like
call
meant
side.
a lot to him, but I was like, where else would he have sat?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He didn't belong to
also
the
thought that was
Dowks.
weird as well.
I thought it was weird that it was a deal at all.
Yeah.
Like, of course he would sit
I thought it was
on the
obvious.
call side.
Mhm.
I think the only reason that
Right.
he may not have is I'm for sure with that explanation. I guess the only sort of counterpoint to that to some degree is because he was effectively disowned and exiled. Like, do you belong to the family? And this is sort of a step in the direction of yes, you do. I'll own you in public.
And
I guess this is private, but it's also public in its own way.
and the fact that I believe Hilo decided the positioning of the seats, right?
Think so.
Or had a say in it, whatever it is.
Facing the door, there were a lot of small things. Yeah.
But then the other thing that hasn't been mentioned is the little interaction in the kitchen between Corey and
A
Andon.
little bit of waistband snapping.
You know, good to see that they're still at it, I guess, in the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to talk about at it more in 41 for sure,
Right.
as the way that chapter ends is fucking insane. I couldn't imagine like putting that down to page and being like, cool, good. What an intense way to end a chapter, but we'll get there.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a normal
Andy.
part of life.
Well, I mean, it is, but we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it when we get there. It's just, yeah, it's like it's treading the line of character, which is fun. It shows growth or change. So we leave the Dowk household, of course, this being kind of an honorable dinner. They agree to try to set up the meeting with the bosses they're following, and they head to the hotel, of which is mostly empty, for Harvest Eve, the holiday that's happening, of course, that we also haven't talked about, with Scare Jack, or I think that's his name or something like that, who's out and about. Kind of seems like an interesting combination of holidays. They have Brandy at the bar. Hilo and Andy have a second to catch up, and it seems like maybe there's some smoothed over wounded pride and feelings with time. That's kind of healed that wound a little bit. And because they're having Brandy, everyone has to take a drink. So, cheers.
Huzzah.
Not Hoji.
Nope. For once.
Just, I appreciated the method of picking out the drink. Like, looked like the most expensive thing behind the fanciest thing behind the bar, so I went with it. Same. I've done that.
Reasonable call.
I've done that.
Yeah. It was a good move. It tasted good.
Mm-hmm. Got to buy based on labels alone sometimes.
Yeah.
But it seems like Hilo is trying to be nice to Andy and be reasonable, but Andon isn't expressing his, hurt and feelings. He's kind of like waiting to see what Hilo says, and obviously we see how that goes in the future.
Yeah. We definitely have more to say on that a little bit later, because this does kind of, in a way that very few other scenes in this book do, this fades to black, basically, and assumes the catch-up. And we assume that it's a positive conversation because of where it goes later.
Yeah.
So, cool.
There's a funny little bit that I think ties into when they're at the Drudge Hall, when ship pops off with the crews, and Andon is first showing off the pictures of his nephews, where Hilo says, "Keep the photos. I brought them for you. Shay never sends the latest ones." And even Andon was like, by the time I get them, they're so late, but I can't bother the weatherman with that. But it's just like even Hilo notices that, which is funny.
Yeah, it's a funny
Shay's
moment
busy.
too.
And it's just, it's just funny, just to see the little sibling rivalry and bittery going on.
It's a nice little bonus that also gives Hilo just that much more credence, is really caring in this moment for Andon. And I think that's the one thing that I want to highlight, is that it feels like he has, at the very least, come to terms with a lot of this, but we have more to kind of talk about on the resolution of that in the chapter after the next. So,
Chapter 40, The Bosses. At Hilo's suggestion, Dot Lawson has Roan Turu set a meet with the three Betas bosses in Espenia. The chapter ends with Dot, Roan, Hilo, and Tar driving and then arriving at this meet before shifting to Blaze the Bull Cromner's point of view. We get a tantalizing glimpse of how the crews operate and how the bosses, led by Cromner, negotiate with Hilo and No Peak through doubt. Ultimately, they agree to enter a peace agreement between the crews and the Teco-Espenian community in exchange for smuggled jade from Tacon. After driving home and eating dinner with the Doubts, Hilo and Doubt Lawson discuss why Hilo has really come to Southtrap and enter into what would be the start of a beautiful friendship.
Maybe not beautiful.
So the very first thing that stood out to me was the first dawn and its comparison that Tar draws to it with the penitents back in Tacon.
Everybody's got their little protection superstitions.
After meeting all of these people, I'm so surprised that there's any amount of superstition amongst them.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, they seem pretty trashy.
The only edge I would give them, again, is time frame, right? And the way that we're talking 70s-ish if we're thinking about when this takes place. So the Advent quote, wow, what a weird way to put that. It's not the advent of atheism, but the popular spread of agnosticism and atheism wouldn't be as prevalent. If you think about Godfather, they're all incredibly religious, despite being a part of the mob.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right. And this is
all through.
Yeah. And they're clearly, supposed to be kind of similar to maybe Italian-American mafia vibes going on. It's struck me kind of as like Jersey Shore Mafia type of vibes, more so than actual mobsters. But
Guido vibes.
Yeah, the God
Massive.
bless the narrator here. His grasp of the language was a little dicey.
I have some firm disagreements about this in this section in particular. I re-listened to it today, right before we recorded this, actually, when I was working out, and I think that he kills the difference between interpretation, like Dauk being an interpreter.
Yeah, he's good at the
speaking.
subtleties, but his voice, choices of voices leaves a lot to be desired, I would say.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Was a good one.
I like this section.
That would have been a better narration voice. Yeah, see?
I don't. Yeah, I don't. But I don't know that that's what he's going for. It's like British gangs, like Brits, not.
And it's like gutter Brits, like Adele.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
yes, that's actually a great comparison.
Did you want to do your Cockney accent now?
No.
Oh, okay.
Only other thing I wanted to throw in is First Dawn being a comparison, of course, to the other religion, very close Christian analog. I mean, that's kind of the entire intent, it feels.
Yeah, they're all kind of organized into clans, and they're all following either Aisho or gods or superstition. Even across the pond.
Yeah, it's like similarities but differences, and that's, I think, what's on display here.
Yeah. It was also crucial because I think this is the first we hear of Aspenians adhering to religion in any real sense at all. For this, it seemed like very earnestly that money was literally the religion, quite possibly.
Capitalism was the religion, yeah.
Now we see there's an actual religion, at least masquerading behind the surface. But yeah, so as they drive to this meet, Hilo observes, Tar's nervous habit, and there's a little glimpse into Greenbone culture of how like they're always fussling with their jade and stuff, kind of drawing attention to it. And I just like whenever we see, Hilo's perception, not just from his jade, but just like, he's very perceptive as a dude, and he sees all these little things, and he makes note like, hey, don't draw attention to yourself, don't do that, don't let them know we're super fucking jaded like this.
Yeah, the whole thing was interesting that Hilo didn't come in like, I'm the fucking leader of the second biggest clan. He kind of let them all think he wasn't an important person, or as important as he was. So Tar couldn't look like Tar.
And
because
Hilo
I would
even
have given it away.
buttons up his shirt all the way.
I was definitely like Dauk Sana, where I was like, I thought you were going to kill everybody.
Yeah. And like, I think the decision to kind of be undercover to a certain degree made sense, especially being as young as he is. First impressions are a big deal, and being seen as immature or young or not ready for the position that he actually holds, it feels like it'd be more important to actually get the information across. And if that means being a lackey in their eyes, that works. I was just waiting for like a newsreel to pop up and them to like recognize him in the moment or something, or like somebody to have remembered an expose on the Greenbone clans. But
30 under 30, powerful leaders of the world.
Yeah.
You think Blaze the Bull Cromner's big on his expose, keeping up with the dailies?
Super duper reading papers.
Any international news?
Maybe Skinny Reams.
None of them.
What did you guys think of Hilo's sort of like discomfort in and as you were touching on just now, obscuring his jade and kind of like hiding who he was to a degree? Even though like he remarks like, even though they're almost as low as a Punyo, he felt uncomfortable hiding or being deceptive like this.
I think it's more about like hiding his jade. He doesn't like it is who he is. It's kind of like putting a mask on. You know?
It's such a source of his power and status, and is such a big part of his everyday life. And just like he's the pillar, he rocks a ton of jade. And so to not show it off, I think that's just kind of, to me, that's kind of like, that's where it was coming from, where it just feels weird.
Yeah.
Not be like proud of that.
My initial read on it right away was like, oh, they have to hide it because it's not legal here. But then he explains that, like, at the border, they had to declare the amount that they had, and they'll get checked and made sure they have the same amount going back. And like, he's allowed to wear it here on a special like allowance. But my initial thought, I didn't think much of it because I assumed they were hiding it because they couldn't legally wear it.
That makes sense. What do you guys think of this switch to Blaze the Bull Cromner's point of view? And side note, just like, what a fucking name, Blaze Cromner, and then what a nickname.
I thought it was weird in the moment.
Same.
But
I
telling,
agree.
but yeah, it was awkward. I kind of thought, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I was a little distracted. I think I was at the gym while I was listening to this chapter the first time, and I missed the transition. I'm like, what the fuck is happening and whose head am I in right now? So, like, subsequent read made more sense, but
it was one of those moments where I'm like, oh, that's kind of a weird transition. And then
It's something I always have trouble with when you're not in first person.
Yeah,
It's
that
like,
definitely complicates things.
you know, I have much easier time understanding what's going on in first person because sometimes it feels like you're reading, like, you know, a history book where they're telling you what happened instead of like what everyone's feeling. So sometimes when it switches, I'm like PJ, I'm like, I can't, like, my mind isn't tracking what's actually happening. Cause, like, you know, you're like, which
That's like
side of the room am I on?
Right. The other, like, to give credit where credit's due for, like, really great POV switching writers, one of Stephen King's best traits is the fact that he does break up POVs so cleanly that you know when that third person switches. Like, you know when you move from Roland to Jake's perspective very clearly.
The Headless Thompson Dunner?
What?
My Warren Zevon
No.
listen, Warren Zevon heads, they know. And they're fucking fired up right now.
Every once in a while, Thomas, you just say things, and I'm like, that string of words means so little to me that I don't know how to react. If it's a joke, if it's serious, if I should be offended.
I think that's why you brought me here, though, right?
I know it's great, but at the same, like, I've never.
Cross,
Every
I
once in a
never
while,
know.
I just like.
I never know what's going on.
Okay, well, at least we're on the same page.
I know who Warren Zevon is.
Okay, all right,
Let's move on.
tracking.
Okay. There's just a fucking wacky cast of characters with the Aspenian gangsters here.
I did think
They're
we
like,
got
they
a
all got-
little bit of like, it got a little caricature-y for me.
Yeah.
Hey, we're gangsters. I see you. I got
Yeah.
a pinstripe soup on,
And like,
and my guy's name is Skinny Reeves.
yeah, Skinny Reams. And then the lady. And
I
it
got
was
the
just
hat.
And her
and I
husband's in
flipped it.
jail.
And her
and
husband's
she's going
in jail.
between.
Get my cane.
Yeah.
I liked
why-
Anga.
That's kind of why, to me, it felt more like Jersey Shore gangster than what I feel like it was supposed to be, like old school Italian gangster, because it was so cliched.
Yeah,
It felt
just
kinda like
yeah, as like well written as the Call family is, as like this gangster family with a lot of different layers. Like, they very much were not written that way.
This scene felt written by Quentin Tarantino to a certain degree.
So, I mean, that made sense, though, because she gets a
Yeah.
lot of her inspiration from where Quentin gets his inspiration, too. So
Yeah, for sure.
that plays. I wouldn't say necessarily, and I might be overstating the way you guys are reacting as well, but I wouldn't say it was poorly written.
Oh, no, I didn't mean poorly.
no.
I just meant, like, I got wacky cast of outlaw characters all
It just
coming
felt
together
kinda-
vibes.
Yeah, it's probably because we're so into the K-Town world and like the established, like these gangsters are gangsters, but they have rules and
Yeah,
beliefs, and then we got these fucking guys out of central casting.
yeah, they came off as like caricature versus like fully realized character. But that's
Mhm.
the first time we're meeting them, and we're not getting a lot of characterization either. So
And they're probably playing a part for the Tetanese that they're meeting with as well, and to
Sure.
unbalance one another too.
Yeah, there's also that internal struggle that's going on between the different groups as well, which is kind of a fun thing to see from the side. as sort of the deal comes to light too, that I think is great.
I really appreciated being in Cromner's point of view while the negotiation was happening and like talking to the other leaders and like, okay, I can agree to this because I'm not going to honor it later, and that's fine.
Mhm.
And I can agree to that and just fuck that guy. And like, it was cool, like just getting a really like scattershot bullet point understanding of their interactions and inner communication.
Little seeds that should be sown later, perhaps. And then also like seeing some things we're familiar with from the Greenbone world from these guys who have no fucking idea what's going on. Like when Hilo's straining his perception, he's like, why is that guy looking off in the middle distance thinking really hard? Stuff like that.
Perception.
It's also because he's dumb as shit.
That makes me realize like how little they understand about the actual like Jade that they're trying to deal in.
Speaking of understanding little, one of the marvelous things about this chapter, I think, and why like just another example of how Fonda Lee just like makes everything feel so real and the world so lived in, is the casual racism that Fromner brings in, where he's like, you can never tell with these cats how old they are and stuff like that. It's just like,
Kex,
it's so fucking real.
Kex, and it's just like, Jesus Christ, man.
There was a lot of that.
Black don't crack.
It was a little too much. But yeah, he was firing those off like they didn't mean nothing.
All of it.
And there was like, I mean, maybe to the credit for the sake of the negotiation, but no response, no. I wonder if Hilo and McKen even understand the slur, like if it's anything to them. But Dauk doesn't make any sort of action to it, so
So maybe it's not offensive.
I think it is. I think Andon talked about that earlier, but I don't know. Maybe they're stoic enough to kind of let it go just for the sake of the negotiation.
And it's probably, it definitely feels like something that they're like, they probably did a lot when dealing with the crew, so they're used to it for sure. All right. What do you guys think about Hilo's plan here to offload, just get Jade? At this point, all we know is they want to get Jade into the hands of the crews in order to get them off the bats of the Tetanese in Aspenia.
Once
Seems
you
like-
kind of... Oh, go ahead.
Seems like a bad idea.
Oh, you thought it was a bad idea?
I don't know. I mean, it's not like important, Jay, but I think Dauk and Shay's reservations of Jade being in the hands of people who don't know how to use it and basically street rats isn't
Riffraff.
safe for anybody.
I feel like he's like kind of giving it to them and it's going to end up destabilizing their situation, then allow him to like take advantage of it. So I don't know. I like this scheme, especially with like it being like the runoff Jade basically that isn't even good. And I thought his point, and I think he makes this to Shay later on, but like they have to evolve. Like their enemies are doing this. Like if they continue to try to have some kind of sense of like honor, they're just going to end up where Lon is at. So I liked it.
I still like wholly expect him to pull something over on them somehow. Like this buys time, but maybe the first shipment is actual like runoff, which is still like their dregs and they still don't have a need for it. But then the second shipment is like Fool's Jade or just fucking rocks. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that's why he asked them so many questions, kind of like to get an idea for like what they understood about Jade, and like they don't even know what they're getting into.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, like I said, I think he's like giving them all this Jade so that then they start fighting over it with each other, have reasons to like be mad at each other about stuff. And then they can use that to create cracks where now Hami Tumashan can get in there and start making waves.
Yeah, because we do get that little very casual note that Hami has clearly accepted the position and is now in Port Massey.
which is kind of like it's a great update too, because it feeds into this idea of like, okay, it's a casual way to bring up that he's accepted the role. And I think that's a fun way to do it, as opposed to like re-engaging with a full conversation with Shay and otherwise just being like, this is moving forward. Time advances as the story advances around it. And we don't need to constantly see every single element of what's happening all the time.
I really like how Fonda does that with the story.
Because there's just so much. Like if she literally gave every scene,
it'd be so long.
You know, if she showed,
and it'd be boring. Yeah,
I like when authors like give the reader the benefit of the doubt that we'll figure it out. Unlike our boy Brandon.
I was ready for it. I was waiting for it.
I fucking remember, Brandon. Stop telling me the same thing.
Do you want a 150-page dissertation on how this weird thing works that no one cares about?
Or
cool. I gave it to you anyway.
Do you want to hear about the entire book 1 again at the beginning of book 2? Sure, yeah. I didn't just read it.
But we'll do it in 40 pages this time as opposed to 400.
Yes. You know I love him.
Right. We all love him.
Everyone loves him.
I'm agnostic.
Anyway.
So this chapter ends with Hilo and Doubt's conversation about, like, Hilo, why are you really here? What's going on? And then Hilo reveals some of his plans, some of his thinking.
I like this new relationship.
And why'd you question if it's going to be a beautiful friendship, Aaron?
You said that about the fucking gangsters.
No, I meant Doubt and Hilo.
It was in the gangster chapter.
It's in the same chapter.
It's the same chapter.
I think you might
it all
have
rolls together.
It's okay.
I specifically said Doubt and Lawson. Doubt
Maybe
Lawson
I wasn't
discussed why
fucking
Hilo.
listening, Thomas.
Wow. Well, you still comment.
There we go.
You fucking found the time to comment, Aaron.
Maybe
Ben's like, it's the first time it hasn't been me.
Maybe I was eating my sandwich.
Okay. Fair enough. Let her
That's
eat.
a good excuse.
Never going to be mad at people for
you
eating.
did have a long weekend.
Yeah. Fine. It's a beautiful bunch of jazz. Beautiful friendship.
Cabbage.
Full of jazz.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Doc, what's his name? Lawson?
Lawson.
Yeah. I'm wondering if he's up for this job. I have
He
questions.
seems like a sweet man, maybe a little too sweet.
But he's got Roan Toro, who seems like he's got the scruples. So maybe the
Good
two
word.
of them together, could figure it out. But I'm a little worried about him not being strong enough.
Or
I don't think it's
ruthless
even
enough.
that. For me, it's not even so much about like their strength. It's the going from a loosely organized, barely organized, quote unquote clan to like a straight up clan in a country that isn't cool with it. Like, I don't know if Hilo understands how much pressure he's putting on this guy.
I might have a very good analogy, but it's based on a satire, so I don't know if this is actually good. Cross probably does. It feels kind of like a startup getting seed money, and then all of a sudden now we got real fucking rules. We got like, you actually have to report what's going on. Like, you have a real job now. You have to like do all the things by the book, and there's like a real boss that you report to. And everything's a lot more real than it was before when you had a great idea and we're just kind of running loosey-goosey.
And if you do something wrong, you go to jail.
Yeah, there's real consequences.
Yeah.
It's not just, hey, Mom, need some help with rent this month.
I think that's a great analogy.
I agree. Yeah.
Considering that I am in that sort of situation. That's my entire life.
I knew it. I was basing it
That's
on
literally what I do.
an HBO show that I will not name.
No,
that-
I'm going to rewatch all of it, by the way.
Silicon Valley.
Trace
Such a
Thomas.
good
No
show.
names.
We were so good about it.
We adhere to this rule for Thomas's sake, and I refuse.
I respect that. Okay.
All free ads.
All right. Does
Yeah.
that round out?
That rounds out chapter 40, I'd say.
Cool.
Shit
All
looks
right.
like an orange.
Yeah. So good. With that, we get into chapter 41. Green as fuck. Andon and Hilo head to a coffee shop before Hilo returns to Jan Loon. They talk about Andon's use to the clan, and Hilo lays out the plan for Andon to stay in Port Massey for now, to be No Peak's inside man here, and to help Hami establish the new weatherman's office. After a brief conversation about a future with Corey, they part ways. Andon then booty calls Corey from a payphone.
I want to fuck.
Golly.
I want to fuck.
I was like, okay.
Yeah, I was like, well, okay.
It seemed like a weird thing to say in the moment.
It did seem like a weird thing to say in the moment. This is all I want to talk about.
Here's the thing. Dude
I was
is
like,
emotional.
what? Skirt.
It was a big record scratch thing for me.
It was like so un-Andon.
Yes. I just did not. I would have been so turned off by that.
I've been like,
No.
that's not how you say that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, hey baby, you wanna come put your hands in my pants again?
They've been in a situationship for like a year at this point, it seems like, right? So probably pretty used to it.
I mean, it was just, he's like clearly upset and like in a bad vibe situation.
Oh, it's a bad fuck. No one's saying
it's
that
like,
this is a good time.
why would I still come pick you up?
Yeah.
But it's still like, I don't know. It's
for him to just be like,
yeah.
okay, I'll come get you.
Like, okay, man.
I'd be like, are you okay?
Yeah. And it's just so un-Andon.
Yeah, I don't know. That seems weird.
Is it?
Mhm.
I want to get into that, but PJ, you look like you're biting at the mic.
No, I mean, I think the biggest thing is there was the rejection that Andon gave Corey earlier because of the proximity of Hilo and coming off of that conversation of like Hilo effectively endorsing their relationship. And that has to be a lot of weight off of Andon's shoulders. I think he understood already that Hilo didn't have a problem with homosexuality in general, and like that wasn't an issue, but just to get a direct endorsement of that relationship gave some motivation to secure that relationship. And
That's fair.
I think that's where he was coming from.
Hmm.
Whether or not he
I saw
did
it
it well
more.
is completely different, but I think that was his motivation.
I saw it more as like filling a hole by filling a hole, you know, which I'm not a fan of.
Yeah.
And
You're not a fan of
Filling
getting your hole
holes.
filled?
no, that part's fine. I'm saying when you have a hole in your heart,
I know what you're saying.
you shouldn't.
I was trying to make a joke.
That I think what he needed from his friend Corey was not a hole. It was,
Friendship.
yeah.
Concern.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I didn't see it at all as him being like, oh, now I can be with Corey. I saw it as like,
I'm sad.
I'm sad.
I want to feel better.
Come
Yeah.
fuck me.
Yeah.
No, the reason, I know you're trying to push us back to the start of the chapter, but the reason I think it's so un-Andon is because he's not a forward guy at all.
He's getting more forward, and he does really like sex, and they like sex with each other. So, I mean, like, I guess it's coming from, I can kind of understand it, but I did think it was just like, dang, if he's doing that, then there's like clearly
Maybe he's
something.
spiraling.
There's something going on with him. Like, I don't know. It's
I
it's
think that
warning
there's
sign
a-
for me.
Interesting. Okay. I can understand like leaning into that as like a sign of change or of tumult to some degree. But I would say that on the other side of that too, it's also the sort of acceptance of like of who he is and finally being able to kind of chase the things that he wants, similar to what Thomas had said earlier. Like it's this idea of like, okay, I'm accepted. Okay, like I also, it's this massive weight off of his shoulders of his place in the family to some degree. Like he feels, while not perfectly accepted, he feels like welcomed back in a big way. And that's a big deal to him because that is his only family. So there's a lot of pent up something going on. And that's why I think it comes off so aggressively in the moment.
I'm glad that you guys have that perspective because I didn't really get that. I saw it more as like he didn't get what he wanted in the moment.
Yeah, he was so upset when he
Yeah.
left.
And
I think he didn't vocalize himself fully, but yeah.
yeah,
I think it's still wins, but not the win that he wanted.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to amend my statement a little bit in hearing the conversation and reflecting on it. Less that their relationship is accepted and more that his place in Espenia is more permanent now.
Oh, there's also that.
And he doesn't have a clock on how long a relationship in this country could last.
That's a great point, too, because that is also a part of the perspective, right? Is that it's like, oh, well, if I'm not leaving now, then we can stay. And also, there's the other side of it, too, that we're kind of working our way backwards through this chapter, which I guess I've just accepted.
You have to.
Hilo brings up in the conversation that like, he wouldn't fit, that there's no way that Corey would fit in John Loon. And so there's kind of, and really Andon internalizes that and thinks about that because it's this green as fuck city, right? And so in that same regard, it's like, oh, well, if I want to be with Andon, this guy that I like, well, then I have to be here. I'm literally being told to be here and I'm accepted back into the family. Cool.
Okay.
There's a lot of that.
I like that, Reed.
There's still an anxiety and angst all over the place inside of this as well.
I don't think he feels like he's been accepted back into the family.
Yeah,
yet.
I think he leaves this upset and like he's being like reactionary. I don't see him leaving this happy at all. That's where I completely disagree.
The terms of his exile were 2 years, and that's been pulled out from under him.
And he's so upset about it. He wants to go home. Like he talks about, the smells of KCON and wanting to hear his native language, and like he does not want to stay here.
Yeah. So now I'm going to hop back to the beginning of the chapter so that we can unwind that, because I think that's the way that we get to that point, right? So they have the breakfast. The Heons are handsomely rewarded for housing and taking care of Andon for the press. 2 years. It's great. They get like a
monetary
I know that it's a great piece of artwork, but I just think about it as like, here's some money and a poster. I don't know. It's just the way that it stands out in my brain.
The 3 Wolf Moon poster.
I mean, it's rolled, so that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a poster in it too. But there's that, which I think is lovely. Of course, they are finally kind of paid, and they are the parents that I think Andon has always needed to some degree, which is great.
The Heons.
Mm-hmm.
They're like grandma and grandpa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a real grandma and grandpa, not a shitty grandpa that calls you garbage and half-blooded and really powerful in Jade abilities.
Half
and
goat, half tiger.
Yeah, right. Blah. Thank God he's dead. Anyway, I love the little line that we get to about too dark to see green as a stand-in in some ways for grimdark, and like this idea of like amoralistic media and sort of the way that characters are painted and projected, especially because we are literally reading something that fits directly into that genre in a lot of ways, in which we are not following, positive green, like the heroes that we're following aren't actually heroes in a big way, despite their own mentality about them. It's a nice little meta note, I think, on the story.
Yeah, that was dope. I can get a tattoo, too dark to see green.
It's be Jade as fuck.
Sick.
Jade AF.
Tattoo.
That's your tattoo? Jade AF.
I would do it. So what do we think about Hilo's conversation with Andon about his place, though, and rewinding to why we are rewinding in this chapter from the front to back? There's a lot that happens here, and that's unfolded, and I think that we have mixed reactions. So I want to unpack that.
I still just don't understand why Andon wants to go back to Janlin.
It's his home country, and he didn't have the choice to leave.
But why? But
he feels
to
exiled.
Be in the clan, what comes with that.
I understand being homesick, and he wants to.
I can definitely understand that. But it's he's in a full on. He's in a full on cake and eat it too situation.
He never wanted to be in Espenia. He's making the best of it, but he thought it was 2 years.
But he's not looking at all the great things that he has here.
Either I agree, but I'm saying the way he feels is it's bad. I don't think he comes out of this being like happy about it.
Everything's come out so positive for him, though. I just don't like. I don't know. I don't get like what he wants.
His decision to reject Jade, I don't think he intended it for a rejection of the clan as a whole. He wanted to serve the clan and he wanted to be with his family and be in his home country, but he didn't trust himself to wear Jade. So he rejected that as a means of like saving himself. And I don't think he understood in the moment truly what that meant and the repercussions of that. And like, I think he still yearns for serving the clan on a like an intimate level and being with his family and being with his siblings, for lack of a better term, like their cousins, their siblings, whatever they are, but like they basically act as siblings, and he misses that. I don't think there's anything. He's young. He's a young kid. And
I just want somebody,
20-year-old. Yeah.
I just want somebody to ask him like, okay, Andon, in your ideal world, what does it look like for you to be back? What does that look like? Because I just want to know like what his vision is that he actually wants. Like, what would that even look like?
Has he thought about it?
I think he wanted to work a job, make money, live in a fucking village or whatever, but he doesn't want to be forced to be so far away.
But I guess what Hilo's trying to show him is that he can't, this is the way that he can serve the clan.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's not only that it's the path to serve the clan, but it's one that like he is immediately adept at and like can actively jump into the role. And that's the reason that it's kind of worked out that he's here. The line, what could you do in Janloon that would be useful to the clan as what you could accomplish here? And Hilo throws back very coldly the tell me you'll put on Jade and I'll book you an airplane ticket tomorrow. But of course that isn't going to happen, as we know. And Hilo tries to make it very clear that it's like, this isn't about punishing you. It's about the fact that you'll be sort of shamed by Aisho standards, more or less. Like I'm past, Hilo feels, and I'm curious as to your thoughts, but Hilo feels like in the way that he expresses himself, like he is pretty far past this mostly and is accepting of it, but that he's afraid of the way that other people will treat him as a member of the Call family.
I don't think it's even that. I think that there are absolutely jadeless positions that require Espenian language. Phones exist in this world. They're constantly in communication with the Espenian government and military. Like they need people that can speak their language.
Oh, I'm not suggesting that.
So, but my point
totally
is,
right.
I think the biggest issue is that having Andon there jadeless is a liability. He can get kidnapped and held ransom like that.
That is a part of the agreement. So we do know that that's like binding. And Hilo's not being honest with that side of things. But the other side of this is that at the very least, I don't think he's wrong in the way that he says, you'll only ever be the least of the calls, the one who was ruined by Jade and can't wear it anymore. You'll be treated the way that a recovered alcoholic or released convict is treated, with pity. Is that what you want? If you intended for something other than that, you'd have to figure it out yourself.
He doesn't let him answer,
so while you're
though.
Here.
So like that's not a legitimate reason for him.
Because he does let him. He lets him ask a question. He says, "Are you concerned about me or just my family's reputation?" He says, "I don't give a my wife's a stone eye. Like I push against this shit actively. That's my life."
I mean, I thought Hilo was spitting fire this entire argument.
I thought Hilo was saying all the I thought Hilo was in the right. I'm just saying I don't think Andon felt any warm and fuzzy feelings after any of this.
I agree.
No. Yeah, that's fair.
I agree with that. And I don't think I think even given that argument, Andon would still choose to come home. Like if that's all that it was about, Andon would still choose to come home and face the discrimination.
Yeah, because he's already been discriminated and unlucky his whole life.
Mm-hmm.
He just wants to be in his own culture.
Right. Whereas I think there's there's more to it that he's not letting on to Andon.
That's for sure. I don't disagree with that at all, but I think that he is also being pretty honest on the other side. Like, he's being 90% honest.
Everything he's saying is true.
Pretty critical.
Everything he's saying is true. It's just not the critical thing. And he's not
Lying by
truly
omission?
giving...
Is that what we're...
Yeah, basically. But he's also not truly giving Andon a choice here.
Oh, no. Andon does not have a choice. He's not offering an option. He's denying the option via rationale. Yeah. So, okay, to Aaron and Ben's point, yes, I don't think he's running away from here with happy-go-lucky feelings necessarily, but I think he does come away with this feeling of, as it said, and despite himself, he began to like Port Massey, to see its muddled nature and strange customs as unique and vibrant in their own way. But he also wanted to go home, to hear his native language spoken in the streets, to be surrounded by the sights and smells of Janloon that he'd grown up with and had always taken for granted. The conflict felt irreconcilable. And so as he sees one part of that life, the Janloon part of his life, walk away and take off on an airplane, he settles in to calling the other side of his life for a fuck.
I want to fuck.
Because those differences they seem incompatible right now.
I totally get it, man. Anytime you've lived anywhere other than your hometown, it's like there's always like a pull, you know? Even if you like where you're at.
I totally get it. I don't want to just be contradictory and say I have no pull to my hometown. My only pull to my hometown is the fact that PJ generally lives there and that Adam lives there, and that's it.
I'm repelled by my hometown personally.
Yeah, I know. I am pretty actively
you've
as well.
Always lived in the Midwest. I'm saying if you moved like to, I don't know, New York, you'd be like wanting to come home.
No, I wouldn't.
Yes, you would. New York sucks.
And move to upstate New York.
I like New York.
We didn't hang out.
I think the difference is Andon didn't move. Andon was moved.
He was moved.
Right. Agreed.
Right. Yeah. Cool. All right. Anything else in chapter 41? Loved the spirited debate and unwinding that chapter forwards and backwards to back to
Do we
forward.
think Andon gets fucked?
Andon fucks so hard.
Here's the thing: is our guy
Do we
Corey
think so? What if Corey's
emotionally
like, hey
intelligent?
man, why don't we go on a walk instead? You seem kind of wound tight.
He's pretty, people say, flitting around like a beautiful little butterfly. That
Corey was leaving the next day.
Friends with everybody.
They don't have time.
Oh, they definitely fucked, yeah.
They for sure fucked. They fucked like 4 times.
Yeah. Corey was like, yikes.
Probably went on a walk after like number 3. Everyone is having a hard time with it.
I had a nice heart-to-heart. Got a stone.
Got a scone.
Need to fucking fuel up.
No, you're right. You're right.
Nice tea.
All right.
All right. Chapter 42. A difficult position. And let me just say, side note, coming right after I want to fuck a difficult position, I was like, what's going on? What's up?
It's so good. Great work, Fonda.
Shay and Hilo discuss his trip to Hispania, with Shay sharing some reservations but keeping others more or less to herself. The pair then discuss Maro, with Shay revealing the pair are allegedly on a break, and Hilo advises her to be honest with him. Next, Shay spends a day with my guy, Son tomorrow, playing a game of Chasso and discussing the outgoing Chancellor's future. Finally, we cut to the aftermath of Wound Poppy's wedding, where Maro had apparently been Shay's date, and the pair have a charged exchange before Shay tells Maro about her abortion. A lot going on in this chapter. 3 different pretty big things all on their own. Pretty quick chapter as well.
Yeah. I mean, what was the name of your cocktail again, Ben?
Surprise. I got an abortion without telling you. You look like you need a drink.
Good job.
That's probably what she should have done. That would probably have gone over better.
I'm confused why, like, she's inviting him to be the date to the wedding. Like,
agreed.
What?
Agreed.
Like,
first strike.
Why is she playing this guy?
Wedding
Like,
date.
let him go, man.
Bad idea.
Let him
It
live.
also-
Exactly.
Okay, I'm just going to dive into that here because that made no sense to me, and it's at the beginning
100%.
too when she's like, we're
weird.
friends, because they left things and it seemed pretty done, and it seemed pretty heartbroken and messy and painful, and then all of a sudden they're friendly, and I mean not all of a sudden, it was months.
My guy Maro,
does Shay even need a date?
Have some self-respect. Like, I didn't like him being like, "Where are we?" Like, bro, you gotta get it together. Like, you cannot be doing that. Coming back to the house drunk, being 5 months after you got broken up with already, being like, "Where are we?"
Should I come in?
He's got to be better than that.
Sipping hard.
I don't agree with anything that Shay did, but he's got to be better than that.
Do I have it backwards in my head, or did Shay find out about Wound's engagement after the breakup with Maro?
I think it was before.
Was it? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, because before she does it, she mentions wedding planning.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Because
come on, Shay. Like, I don't know.
That was bad.
I would never invite an ex-boyfriend to go to a wedding. It's such a confusing.
It's fucking weird.
It's weird. Such a bad deal.
Bad look, Shay.
At your house too.
Yeah. And like, they're broken up and pretending to be friends right now. Like, they're not like, friends with benefits, hooking up off and on.
Everyone knows it
Cross,
doesn't
have
work.
you invited a ex to a wedding? You're like bouncing a little bit in your seat.
No, I was vibing with the entire side of the conversation.
Okay.
I've never invited an ex to a wedding.
I was like,
no.
Cross, what are you about to say?
No.
Proud of you.
Was just loving the bits.
Okay. So back at the beginning of the chapter, one of the things that happens, and it's something that repeatedly happens throughout the course of these books so far, is Shay basically being like, "You always do this to me. You just do whatever you want without insulting me." And Hilo repeatedly accuses her of that. And they just always are making messes for each other. And then, just very sibling-y.
Yeah, I was going to say that's very much the family dynamic, I feel like.
And I think she's right when she's like, if Lon were here, we'd have, long chats before anyone made a decision.
And we never get anything done.
Yeah, what was the tone you kind of took for her from that?
About Lon?
Yeah. But was it the
like
nothing would ever get done?
No, if only.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think, like, to me, this read as like, yeah, they're giving each other shit about it, but they're also kind of like, it works for us in a way. I don't know.
I think we get a lot of breadcrumbs throughout that. Hilo definitely thinks of them as a dream team, but there's all these little, like, soft jabs from Shay to indicate maybe, she's not as into it.
Some youngest sibling bullshit for sure.
I was gonna say, but she's had like the worst offenses to that, though, as far as like making decisions without asking.
Opening up international trade. I mean, she started the opening up trading with the Spenian thing.
Yeah, and I mean, challenging the fucking pillar of the mountain to a duel.
She sees the international world as her wheelhouse, so
she's being
I think
protective.
that's why she's more.
To me, this just kind of read as like,
about it.
She feels like this was kind of like her thing that he kind of stepped into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is, and it gets back to the challenge of Ait, where that's
right
in theory the military aspect, and now he is in turn stepping on her in the financial aspect.
Yeah.
Speaking of this, sorry, PJ.
No, just bringing up the duel. When she conceded, when she surrendered, what was the concession there?
Her jade.
Was it just her jade, or did she agree to like follow Ait? No. Okay.
No, it's just you won the fight. Don't kill me. Here's my jade. And then I think she said, like, she does say stuff after, but she's like, I'll spend the rest of my life being the best greenbone I can be and serving the country.
Okay.
And normally that would be like a thing where that's a loss of honor, but in this situation, kind of worked out for her as she gained honor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Sorry, they brought it up a couple of times. I'm like, well, there was no. It's just business as usual, and I expected there to be some sort of change or fallout as a result.
Oh yeah, it's like she was so outclassed, basically, or like perception-wise going into the fight, she was so outclassed that people are just like, just the fact that she held her own for a little bit, people are like, oh yeah, she's green as fuck.
It's fucking year off, dude.
Yeah. Okay. So speaking of the tangled web with the Aspenians that I was getting to, I have a quote from Hilo here, and like a little passage, I guess. Hilo made a noise in the back of his throat. If it were up to me, foreigners wouldn't have Jade at all. But we're way past that point, Shay. Grandad's generation went down that road 30 years ago as soon as they let the Aspenians into the country and took their money to rebuild after the war. Now look at where we are. SN1 and IBCS and all that other shit.
Preach. Fucking call Sennington. One more thing we can blame him for.
I think Hilo's doing great.
What was
other than that
IBCS?
Time.
Oh God,
It's
I'll
one
look
of
it
the
up.
other things mentioned. I
got it.
couldn't remember if it was anything.
It's the practice that the military of Aspenia uses as they refer to the Jade disciplines.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'm not sure that it's actually IBCS. I think it's something else. IBJCS.
Okay, that's, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. My
It's all good.
copy and pasted it from the Kindle, so it got messed up in transcription. But yeah, it's interesting because obviously it was like they robbed Peter to pay Paul in a way, and by letting
those
the devils
wondering-
into the country.
For those wondering, the acronym Integrated Bioenergetic Jade Combat System is the full.
Rolls right off the tongue.
Super duper great. Really easy to say.
IBJCS also isn't like a great acronym. We need the
No.
Aspenians to spend some of their money on branding, maybe.
Yeah,
on
they
marketing.
need better marketing people.
I'm all about TLAs. I cannot do 5-letter acronym.
Did you fucking use an acronym to describe acronyms? I can't believe you.
Yo, it's a joke.
Moving on.
You ever heard of bits?
Ever heard of being good at them?
Brutal, I guess, but we'll see.
Oh, we've already touched on this a little bit, but my next note is about Hilo's revelation that he plans to supply the crews with the crappy jade.
Mm-hmm.
Love
Great
it.
plan.
And get 700 million or 800 million Thaliers.
Thaliers.
Which is a lot. We know that's a lot.
That's a lot of moolah.
It's a big number. I
Especially for
appreciated
Muddy
the
Jade.
more detailed description of like, here's why it's a good idea, because it is rejected jade, like it's scrap and it is not traced. Like there is no reason why, like there's nothing we have to do to hide this from the KJA.
And like a portion of it's like not even usable.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how the bosses think that they're scamming him with their price. Or really, he's scamming them with the jade that he's giving them. So that's good stuff. That's the good stuff.
They've got to bring in like the Aspenian government, like a person who can verify that it's
The
real.
government's not involved.
No, I'm saying like the government did
Oh.
to bring someone into
Well, they didn't know
With
shit
the
about it. That's
microscope.
why I was asking all the questions.
right. But like, are they that dumb? How are they that dumb? They've got to check it at some
Being
point.
pretty dumb, see?
They probably
See?
got some. They'll get a fucking rock doctor out here to look at it
Love that
and be
bit.
like, that is jade. Maybe they'll do the hold it up to your cheek bit, like the
Yeah, but they don't
The
know.
rock diggers.
Like, they don't.
Yeah, like they don't know. And they don't trust Kekanese, so it's not like they're going to hire somebody like a former clan member to tell them what's up.
I mean, listen, Blaze said, you think he doesn't know about this shit? He says he knows about this shit.
He knows about this shit.
Gotta trust Blaze.
Yeah,
Blaze with
Blaze
an
the
S.
bull, baby. So they pivot from the discussion about Hilo's time in Hispania to discuss Maro and Shay's relationship. So what do we think of Hilo and Shay's interaction regarding Maro here?
I think Hilo's saying the right thing. Got to tell the truth.
Yeah, I agree.
Don't play with that man's heart.
Don't play with
Shay.
a man's heart.
Mhm.
Yeah, I thought his advice was good.
Yeah, Hilo seems to have a good kind of have his finger on the pulse of most things when it comes to love, at least.
Yeah, relationships, human interaction. He's all really good at that stuff.
Which is kind of surprising, you know? Face value, he doesn't seem like he'd be a nougat in the middle kind of dude, but
I get that, but I disagree pretty strongly because everything to him is so personal and emotional, and it's all relationships to him.
Yeah.
Like everything.
And,
like,
I mean, we know that, but
okay, I got you.
his exterior is...
appearances. Yeah.
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 Sorry,
We
I thought
know
you meant
Hilo.
like... Yeah, I misunderstood you. Sorry. I thought you meant like first appearance, even like as a reader. I don't know what I was thinking.
No. Just like his outward
Right.
presentation.
That I do agree with. What do we think about Chasso, the game that Son Tomorrow and Shay are playing?
Is it basically golf?
It seemed like
seems
golf
like
with
a
skeet shooting.
Clay pigeon
Yeah.
golf.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it was like golf mixed with clay pigeons.
Specifically, the description of like elderly people of whom were unfit and
Mhm.
infirm, like
I was
doing
just
it, and it's
like
like okay,
pickleball.
golf.
Yeah.
immediately.
Killing my guy, Son, once again.
Golf and bowling, kind of. Yeah.
Hey, pickleball is fun as shit, regardless
It's
of age.
for old people.
We're having
Old
pickleball
people-
at our tournament.
I have
I-
played pickleball with old people, and they kicked the fuck out of me, and I was
Hey,
tired.
Ben and I also play a lot of pickleball. I'm just saying, it's old people love it.
Yeah. It's also true. I was just making sure that we weren't like ageisting that because pickleball rules, and it's hard.
It's pretty fun. It's also fun being really tall and playing pickleball because
No, fuck
Just slam
you.
it down.
Hey, you pop.
I just got a notification on my watch that my brother finished a pickleball game.
That's unreal.
On brand.
Creepy.
Got to share your activity with your family.
Yeah, apparently. It's alone.
Laugh when you win.
All right.
PJ kicked the shit out of me 3 weeks ago. Anyway,
But within the Chasso game, Shay and Son, they get into some interesting discussions about the Espenians, continuing the pressure to try to get this refugee bill passed to like prevent refugees coming into Espeni or into Taycan. And Son seems pretty committed to his lame Dutch status and not upending anything. But Shay has other ideas. What did we think about that plan?
Yeah, that was. I see you wrote this here in the outline, and I agree. Seemed like some weird voting situation there. Like, I did not understand why the Chancellor Emeritus still got to have like a deciding vote. I don't know.
Yeah, that's your vote.
this is some corrupt as shit Russian.
Okay.
Literally, like Putin rewrote the laws to be almost identical to this so that when someone who was chancellor became president, they would have the same power in reverse. So this is literally like mirroring the Putin law.
Okay,
basically.
that makes sense.
That kept him in power through the late 90s and onward.
Didn't
Mirrored
work
in
out.
real law. Yeah. Well, no,
He's still.
It did work out, actually, unfortunately.
I'm saying it didn't work out for all
But
of
why
us.
does Taycan have it? Is my question. Not
Yeah,
like,
Yeah.
but it does
right.
make sense as I understand real world things. But like,
Right.
it's just weird.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It's a sign of corruption, more or
Yes,
less.
especially
Yeah.
because she's like, "Hey, you should remain in the council because we'll fucking make it worth your while."
Yeah, and he's like, "Cool, okay."
I'd like to be a friend of
Naturally.
the clan.
Yeah,
Who in all of Taycan would be so foolish?
Definitely
Yeah,
the sort of realizations of, all right, yeah, these aren't good people that we're rooting for necessarily.
This is what did that.
I mean, no, not
Does that
This is the
necessarily, but
moment-
it's still
You're
like,
like,
it's just
listen.
building.
It wasn't killing mom that did that for you?
Killing,
Okay.
Well,
Murder,
Shay's
fine.
different
Here's
than
the thing.
Hilo.
That's true.
lobbying.
That's
this
where
is
I
pretty
draw the
tough.
line.
Like lobbying
actually
to keep out more
based
refugees.
PJ, honestly. Fuck lobbying.
You're totally right. This is a tough look in some ways.
Yeah, it is a tough look. Good point, Ben, for getting to the
But-
meat of things and not just the weird.
Son Tomorrow says, kind of is like you still have to vote with the country. Like you can't
Yeah,
only
Right,
vote for your own clan.
Right. That
Like
was a
he
good
kind of
point.
gives her a warning.
Yeah.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Son's good at this too. Like for as much shit as he gets, and like the descriptions of being fat, overweight, and kind of like being cowed by Hilo when we initially,
Right.
Like he is chancellor for a reason.
We're at the
But yeah.
hot and heavy bit.
Yeah, I do think this just speaks once again to how kind of full of shit everything is in Janloon and the world at large here. We're just, Gold and Jade never together, and we have Green Bones fundamentally controlling the government, regardless.
Lobbying the government,
yeah. All right. And that brings us to the main event. We've touched on it a lot already. Maro, the wedding date, already skewered that it makes no sense. A lot of tension going on. There's a chance, it looks like they might fuck at some point. Doesn't happen.
Fuck.
Instead, we get, we did an emotional conversation between the two. It's not super long. It's mostly Maro kind of being like, this is what I wish could happen. Shay being like, yeah, me too. I was doing what I thought was best. And then, bam, I had an abortion.
I'm glad she finally told him.
Mm-hmm.
Are we?
It's his baby too.
I thought it was just mean-spirited, the entire situation.
I think she had to tell him at some point, and I think it will solidify the breakup.
I think she should have just broken up with him and I don't know.
Let it be.
What does this accomplish?
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems selfish because it's like absolving her conscience and just
right.
gutting
Does
him.
it though? I don't know if it even does that.
It gets it off her chest that she feels bad and guilty for not telling him in the first place, which she
at least in
obviously
this moment, I think
have.
it does, PJ.
Yeah.
'Cause she's drunk right now. You know what I mean? From a wedding.
It just felt nasty.
I just want to say it takes two to tango, and she definitely should have told him before. I understand why she didn't, because she had a clan to take care of, but I still think he deserved to know.
I think he deserved to know.
And how could she ever have a relationship with him if she never told him?
Mm-hmm.
That's why she's telling him.
She already decided she was not going to have a relationship with this guy when she didn't bring him into the first
took
place.
It as
You're definitely right.
cutting the bridge.
Man, I don't think it was that. I think it is both. It is an open hand, and if you grab the hand and you can understand why I took this path, then we can proceed forward. If you don't, then we're done.
Yeah,
that's sort of the way that it's treated.
But yeah. I think that she's saying it knowing there's no way he's going to reach out and take that open hand.
No, right. Agreed.
She's saying it with
I don't think that it was reasonable.
Yeah, there's no reason. To me, the decision about the relationship had already been made. It had been made 5 months ago or whatever, when
she killed his unborn child.
Right. She already knew. So at that point, to me, this came off
he needed a drink, and
yeah.
She didn't offer him one. She should have given him a drink. God damn it.
I don't know. Just to me, if she decided to keep it to herself in that moment, then I think
when they broke up,
then I think when she's doing it now, it doesn't serve any purpose other than to just gut and crush him.
I think she's doing it like Cross is saying, he's I want honesty, and she's okay, if we can only move forward with honesty, then here's the honesty. Do you still want to move forward?
Right.
Here are my bowels. Here are the literal depths of my guts.
But she knows the answer to that question. So to me, so it doesn't need to be said. That's what I'm saying is
yeah, totally.
He knows the way he's going to react. So just keep it to yourself, because the only thing that's going to come out of it is
it's cruelty.
That's
to him.
where
yes, exactly. Yeah.
That's where I think the being drunk kind of plays in, because she rationally, she knows that she's emotional. Right. She's drunk in this moment. And so she's Hilo's words are resonating in her head. So she might not be thinking I already know the answer. She's thinking,
God, there's a line. Yeah. I'll find it.
I think there's a bit of both going on. I think her rational side might be on autopilot, being if you tell him this, it severs everything. But
yeah,
in the
and
moment, she might be thinking of it the other way.
I'm probably being a little harsh. I don't think I can see where you guys are coming for sure. But I don't know. I feel she's just being unwieldy and I don't know, not very considerate. The thing that she just lost it a little bit in that moment to me.
Especially because she kisses him right before.
That. Yeah, exactly. The whole
weird.
thing is just,
to me, it feels more like a Hail Mary. I am laying myself bare for you.
Right. We can't move forward unless I'm honest. So this is what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
the open hand thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It can be maybe a little bit mistimed, and that can be explained away pretty easily based on post wedding both emotional and like
Horny.
So
yeah, and drunk and dealing with all of the like weird emotions from Woon and like their thing that never happened that he presented to her. And like, there's a lot that she has on her plate in this instance. And I don't think this is malicious. I don't think this is self-sabotaging. I think this is genuinely a Hail Mary in like,
she
this
does
is the last
call
thing.
it masochistic.
exactly, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So that's why it's
So
like,
the line is the pressure of a fierce and masochistic abandon swelled inside of Shay's chest, right? And so like there is a mixed. I think to the point is that she's not self-sabotaging. I think to your point, but she is drunk enough that she is willing to step over a line that otherwise she might not have considered. But regardless of whether or not she's intoxicated, I'm a firm believer that this was the right choice. Ben, I understand your perspective on this being like, why would you hurt him further? Why would you endanger this relationship or like this friendship or whatever and dig a deeper hole?
I don't even think it's like
Ultimately,
about saving anything. I just think it just at the end of it just comes out
Cruel.
cruel. Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Sure. I still think it's the right call. I don't know. I've got that gradient of honesty that I think I appreciate.
Ben's just worried about our guy Maro.
I just feel like, we
fair.
know
I
how
am
he
too.
feels about his nieces. We know
Yeah, I
his
just
own
don't like
complicated
he's never
upbringing and
going to be
abandonment
like-
issues.
he's never gonna be like, okay, now that you're honest with me, it's okay now. Like, I don't know. She knew that she had him in the palm of her hand, and I just feel like, especially with him before that being like, where are we at? Like, he's clearly like still pining for a relationship that's never going to happen, that they both know is not going to happen.
Mhm.
But he's still there, like trying. She invited him to this fucking wedding that she shouldn't have invited him to. Like, I don't know. It's just like all of that is just nasty, and that's. I just don't think she's like, to me, you're not considering another person's feelings very well in that moment, and like the whole thing, just everything that led up to it, plus then like dealing this crushing blow and be like, well, you asked for honesty. It's like, I don't know. I just like not the moment for it. I can, if you're going to cut, like, to me, if she's going to cut him out at the end, at the beginning, then she can do the kindness of saving him that at the end is kind of how I see it.
But I see the long ball throw. Like I totally get what you're saying, Ben. I think I see the, if you truly think that the only problem between us is a lack of honesty, here it is. Here's the last thing that I haven't been honest about. You've read into me. You've seen everything else from the outside. You've read that perfectly because you're a smart man. Here's the thing that you didn't know.
Yeah.
I wonder if this will drive him to talk to the Shatarians.
To me, I just
That's
don't
what I
see.
think.
I see her as she's like already made her decision. So there's no long shot decision to be made, or there's no long shot to happen here, because like,
but if
her decision has
he
been
could
made.
turn, yeah. But if he would turn, that might work.
And
it could work.
she is pining for him. She does want it to work.
In some world that's not real. I don't know, not in this reality that she's in.
Yeah, there is constantly the problem of the half Shatarian
Yeah.
nature that she has a problem with the history, and then like the political nature of things. But part of me questions whether or not that would be important at this point now, given her standing in the clan. So like those were some previous anxieties, but I'm not sure that they'd stand up now at this point. I don't know. It's all good though, and I think that's kind of the nature of what Fonda wants us to debate and have in our brains right now is like, well, how should we feel about Maro?
Yeah.
Hami's happy though. Sorry, not Hami. Woon, Papi Danwa is so happy right now. Like,
He's finally got his wife.
He's married.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's worked for longer than the year.
There was some really weird vibes coming from him last week when presented with when faced with the conversations about his wedding. So good to see him following through with it and happy about it.
Man, his wife, his fiance at the time, his mother, they got the wedding planet on lock. He doesn't have to worry about a thing. Relax about
Not
it.
a thing. All right.
My last question here. Is this what we think Hilo meant by be honest?
I think Hilo meant break up with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And
Okay. Just for a split second, I was like, does Hilo know? Does Shay think Hilo knows?
Well, okay.
I don't know. I don't think Hilo knows.
I don't think Hilo knows.
I don't think that it was break up with him necessarily. I think it was make a choice. Like, I don't think it was so
Right.
firm as to say, like, go that direction so much as it was
I agree. Yeah.
make a decision.
Make a decision. Stop fucking with him. Yeah.
Be honest with
Don't go
yourself.
breaking my
Yeah, be honest
heart.
I
with
think it was
yourself,
that.
Yeah.
That's what he
Which
said.
I think
Right.
obviously meant break up with him. And so that's why I think Hilo meant break up with him.
Sure,
Because Hilo,
sure.
like Hilo knows
But I don't
Maro's
think
not enough
Hilo
for
was
her.
putting too fine a point on it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, he was never, if you feel otherwise, he would have
Right.
been fine with it.
Yeah.
As stated previously. So,
So that's it.
all right. With that, we get into our last chapter of the week, chapter 43, Family Jade. Hilo has a chat with Mudt, incorrectly thinking him to be Barrow and burying him alive with some of his own jade studs that he plucked from his flesh to slowly die from the itches in a grave underground. Back home, Hilo shares Lawn's recovered jade with Nico. This is a fucking chapter. This is so difficult to read, to reread, to write notes about.
Sorry.
Mhm.
I just mean, I'm not saying that anyone's not deserving of this, but this is just, it's fucked in its own right.
Oh, yeah.
I had a great time.
Ben doesn't seem to feel bad at all for Mudt.
Can I
I
be?
don't.
I
Why?
thought it was cool as fuck.
Yeah, I did too. I thought it was pretty
thought it was
fucking
It
sick.
is. But if you think about it for a second,
I did. I think
Fonda
it's
has
cool.
created a secondary nightmare for me, which isn't just being like buried alive, but it's like having heroin injected in me and then having me scratch myself to death while buried alive, barely breathing oxygen.
And you can't scratch
Like-
yourself to death because you're tied all
You're
the way
duct
up.
taped. You're
Yeah.
trying to,
Yeah, man.
to scratch
I
yourself
mean,
to death.
this is the
This
meme.
is worse than cement shoes.
Fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
He's literally
Mother
wearing
of
the
God.
not like reset Jade of
It's
the
so
pillar of the
bad.
clan, the older brother of the current pillar. Like,
Who has a violent reputation
I'm not saying he didn't deserve it.
and proclaiming it.
I'm not sympathetic. I'm just saying it created a different fear inside of me. Those
Yeah.
are different things.
No, I get
I
that.
have a
this was
problem with
marvelous.
this in that, like, they aren't in control of when he dies. They don't know for sure that he's dead unless they go and check back, like, in a month.
Yeah, my thing is like just kill him.
Yeah.
That's my
or
thing.
do
Then
it
you know
on
he's-
the.
then you know he's dead.
do
This
it,
is worse than death. This is worse than a quick
No,
death
but
for
what
sure.
PJ's saying is
It's not like he's going to last for long down
No, yeah,
there, though.
We're
he's
saying
definitely
he
dying
might get
from this, is
away
what
with-
they're
He's definitely
thinking.
dead.
with Barrow.
I mean,
It's a
So,
steel casket.
Here's the thing:
Yeah.
is he's gonna run out of shine super quick from his system,
they already, yeah.
and they put Jade, which he cannot tolerate, inside of him. And It's
Yeah.
gonna be stuck there.
He's going to die. I mean, it's going to be Grizzly.
This dude's slippery. He's not quite as slippery as Barrow was, but, like, I don't know. I would have
That
wanted
didn't enter
to.
my mind.
mean, he's
as
not
well at
Houdini.
all. Yeah.
Regardless, this is just, it's fucking brutal, regardless of what we think the outcome might be on either side. This is, again, props to Fonda for imagining a new kind of torture that I could not have fathomed before reading this series, including being buried alive, high on drugs.
I did,
which is
uh,
basically what's happening.
I did read this, like, very interested in what they were doing with why they were. I was like, oh, they're cool. They're burying him alive. Cool. I was like, oh, they're drilling holes. Okay. So they want to
Mhm.
keep him alive. I was like, why would they want to keep him alive? Oh, they're going to Jade poison him. I was just
And
kind
then
of like,
you laughed evilly.
I don't know. I'm with Thomas. I thought this was cool.
It is cool. It's also terrifying.
But here's the thing: like, our heroes are
I think
fucked
Ben's
up,
a psychopath.
and you got to just lock into the story. Like, our heroes are fucked up. They're doing fucked up stuff. And to see our heroes do this fucked up thing in such
I'm
a
not
clever,
saying I'm
evil,
not down.
ingenious way, I was like, let's go. I don't care.
I'm clearly
Again-
not cut, KK.
Right, same. I'm clear. I'm not down with what's going on, and I understand all of the rationales because it ultimately makes sense, including the confusion that is very clear, and like even the flashback that Hilo has to like this fucking kid, this guy that I let go, that then ultimately like fed through the whole thing that he's misplacing for Barrow in his head.
Mhm.
It feeds into this his overall idea too as well of the sort of undercruft of society getting a hold of Jade that he's talking about overseas becoming a big issue, and then the way that he treats them. Ultimately, Mutt's death makes sense in the overexposure sense because it is a fate worse than a bullet in the head. And oh my god, a thief's death for sure. I think it's warranted. It's just I don't know that I could imagine a worse death for myself. I don't know that I could.
It'd be pretty tough. My biggest issue is I know this is me. I don't trust
He's not dead until he's dead on screen.
Exactly. And like there have been other deaths in other shows or other books that we've covered on this podcast that didn't happen on page.
Show me the body.
Exactly. And we've been burned by it many times. Like, oh no, he's not actually dead. We didn't see him die, so he's not dead. And until we see a body, I'm not going to be convinced that this dude's fucking dead.
They collected the camping lantern and tools from the empty farmhouse. It was entirely silent out here in the country. The night sky was clear and filled with stars. None of the pollution or noise from Jan Moon reached them, and there were no other dwellings in sight. The nearest town, Opaya, was 30 kilometers away on winding mountainous roads. As they walked back to the car, Hilo made a point of personally thanking the 3 nails. That was what Tar called his people now, to differentiate them from Ten's fingers for spending what would have been a nice evening diligently carrying out such an unpleasant task.
Did you guys want to congratulate me on how good I am about predicting stuff in this book?
You did. You actually called nails, of which way back when I wanted to highlight that. I was super excited.
That's why I kept reading. I was mostly just being obnoxious and being like, they're like, who's fucking finding this guy? How is he getting out of the situation?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I kept reading because the nails thing, I forgot that's what they were called when you had said it. But when you said it, I was like, oh shit, that is definitely right.
Aaron, did you want to congratulate me?
We also guessed a lot of other things besides nails.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Wow. I think I specifically said nails, but
just the look that she shot you as she said that was venomous.
I've never seen daggers so effectively shot. All right. So
we are friends.
Ben, you saying that is not reaffirming of Aaron shooting you daggers. Aaron needs to say that for that to work. Aaron's resisting
pointedly silent.
I was going to say, I had an abortion. I didn't tell you.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Here's a drink. Well. All right. So getting into the rest of this, there are a number of great notes, of course, that we get, but there's this line that I kind of want to dig into just a smidge here. Some people believe that with SN1, Jade could be worn by anyone, but that could never be true, because if any lowlife could wear Lon's Jade, then Jade meant nothing. The world of Greenbones meant nothing. The sheer nihilistic possibility horrified Hilo to his core. Nopi clan was like a tiger, and this thief like a rat. But even the largest, most powerful creature would fear a plague of rats, moving in the dark with sharp teeth and carrying disease. It was imbalance in nature, a sign of an accelerating fundamental wrongness in the world that even this moment couldn't set right. And this quote is wonderfully written to encompass kind of the ideology behind Jade and sort of the way that like that's internalized within heavy Greenbone culture. On the other side, there's something interesting that's been happening over the course of this novel where we've shifted from calling the drug that gives the capability from Shine to SN1. It's become legitimized over the course of the last several hundred pages. And that's, I think, something worth remarking upon.
much more of a threat, like a global situation now. And they're kind of feeding into this. And I don't know. That's obviously part of their conundrum. But yeah, I do like that call out. That is interesting how it's become much more of a global piece and a real thing, not just like giant addicts.
Drug.
Yeah, a street drug. Yeah.
The first half of that passage comes off in my head as a little bit petulant almost. Like, no, damn it, I'm special. Nobody else can have my special abilities. And like it's a little bit more than that because it's also sacred. But that's the core of what he's getting to is if any lowlife can wear Lon's Jade, then Jade means nothing. And like he's saying that like the Jade itself and the spiritual and like cultural importance of it is the only important thing, not its actual powers, not the raw power of Jade, just the only important thing in his head or the primary importance is the cultural, familial, and spiritual importance of it.
I kind of read it with that
gives power.
He had it was a sense of grief. Like, if this fucking lowlife rat is wearing Lon's Jade, that takes, that means Lon wasn't worth anything.
And it gets back to the moment that he has back in Jade City when Lon's being buried, and he's thinking about the idea of like where he's buried, how he's taken care of, and sort of those last wishes that he could make to the gods. It's like, I don't believe in last wishes. I don't think Lon did, but at the same time, I'm going to avenge you. And now he's sitting here in the moment of vengeance, and he is instead confronted with almost like a religious experience of, what does it mean if someone else picks up this thing and uses it like an item as opposed to a religious idol? Heavy end.
The idea, the imagery and the like idea of like a tiger being overrun by a plague of rats was very interesting, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was just like really good imagery.
Yeah.
Do you think it's telling of anything?
It does seem like it. And like that's kind of the tide that they're up against, it seems like. And they're trying to keep the cork on the bottle, but it's coming off.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Love that. I would love to end there, but we have one more little note here to kind of talk about, and that's this final moment in which the Jade has been reclaimed. Mudt has been buried in the ground to scratch himself to death, trying to get the couple of jade stones that Hilo has plucked out of his own fucking skin in sort of some kind of... There's something interesting about his choice to pull his own jade out of his chest as opposed to anything else, and to give that up, not necessarily like his iconic collarbone jade, but other jade that's been embedded in him, and to put that on him as like a sense of vengeance and revenge to torture Mudt until he eventually claws himself to death or suffocates.
I thought it was his collarbone jade.
Yeah, they plucks it out of his, like it's embedded in his chest.
I thought he said
plucks it out.
chest, but not necessarily the collarbone studs. Like he has other studs that go down, but I don't think it's a collarbone stud.
Oh, really?
Yeah, specifically, I think it says chest, which is not... He specifies because he's got 6 up here and he's got others. But regardless, they're important jade studs that are embedded in him, of which I think is far more serious than someone pulling out an earring and dropping it in the grave.
Yeah, for sure.
And he's obviously not going to leave any of Lon's jade.
Right. Yeah, Of course not. Because that is meant to be reclaimed for the family and for Nico. And there's this wonderful scene that happens to kind of round out the chapter where Hilo gets to kind of have this interesting moment where he gets to kind of show him Lon's Jade that he will eventually inherit, we assume, and what that means for him in the future. I don't know. What'd you think of that scene, that moment?
Cute.
I think he should have put all of it on him. Just get him used to it right now.
Super baby.
Like murder a baby?
Yeah.
Do you think that would kill him?
Yeah, they're not ready.
It said they can have a little jade
Just
exposure.
a little.
As a treat.
Yeah, you can have a sip of wine.
Yeah, I guess it
New
was
Year's Eve
cute,
after
but
all.
everything with Nico just makes me feel bad.
It's a little gross.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because of the way he came into the family.
I have a hard time with that stuff.
Get over it.
It's fair. Oh, man. Love that. Cool. All right. Well, that is the end of the chapters of this week. With that, our closing thoughts. Who won the week? Who do we think? Who do we
Hilo.
pitch? Hilo? All right.
Yeah.
Why Ben?
I thought Hilo
And
was
Aaron.
doing good.
I think, he had a successful trip to Espinia.
He made
And
new friends.
Made some new friends. And he got Fawn's Jade back.
Hard to disagree. This was also a very, very heavy Hilo week.
Yeah.
I didn't think Shay did very good.
No, Shay did bad.
Andon did okay.
Andon did okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Stood
He's
up for
still
himself.
kind of annoying. Andon.
He's getting better, you know?
Oh, yeah. He's still
And then
annoying.
Wynn didn't do shit.
Yeah.
One
So-
was not in this
Ron
week.
Toro,
Not even
maybe?
mentioned.
Ron
Outside of
Toro's
being
on my honorable
pregnant.
mention list. Ron Toro.
Roan had a
He
pretty
didn't
good
really
week.
do anything though.
Yeah, he only really mentioned she was it's too late to
we
call
just
her.
kind of learned about him.
You know, for me, I think Mudt won the week because revenge serves no one, and his death ultimately is a good thing. And so I think Mudt won because
He
you know,
died.
he learned the ultimate lesson.
Reasonable. Good idea.
Just kidding. I'm totally with you on Hilo.
What?
100%.
That was a joke?
100%.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an argument even against it really this week.
I don't know if there is a better option, but I do
The
like
only
Ron
thing-
Toro as a backup.
Maybe.
Or Dauk Lawson.
Doubt, I think,
He had a
makes
good come up, too.
more
yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Hilo also, I just want to mention, brought in $800 million or thalers to his clan. Huge dub.
Yeah.
But other than that, just agreeing with everybody else.
Yeah, that's a lot
All
of
right.
money. We assume.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, we know it's a
Yeah.
lot because they do a conversion earlier in a previous book, but we don't know the exact rate, but it's a lot. It's
They do a conversion
billions.
to a different currency that we're not
But-
familiar
but-
with.
Yeah, but it's we know it's a ton
it's
of
$1 to
Tetanese money,
thousands.
basically.
Yeah, we know that it's like $1 to thousands.
Yeah, so
comparison,
800 is
very
at
similar
least more than
Yeah.
$1 billion of Tetanese money.
Yeah.
DN, I
That-
think.
That's as close as we can get to approximating. Same idea.
Next week is our 7th episode where we will be reading chapters 44 through 53.
So that's where we'll leave you for this week.
Thank you, as ever, to Tim and Andrew for helping us keep the show's lights on.
Thank you.
A lot of people put in
Grazie.
a lot of work, including all 5 of us. We do a lot to make sure this show keeps going. But those two never get on the mic, or they rarely get on the mic, so we want to always shout them out. You can check out the links to all kinds of stuff in the show notes. You can find the schedule, the Patreon, previous episodes, websites, social media accounts, all in one convenient location. Miles, his Instagram handle will be in there. Yeah,
is.
check him out. He's great. We love him.
We also want to take a moment to thank our new barback patron, Marcus Thompson. Thank you so much, Marcus, for hopping on
Way to go, Mark.
as a patron. Whoop, whoop. Thank you.
I love you.
Mucho. We love you so much. As PJ had mentioned, you can find us on all the social medias, Words Whiskey Pod on Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, Words and Whiskey Show, gmail.com, patreon.com/Words and Whiskey. And our t-shirts are on TeePublic until our screen printer works properly. And then we will do them ourselves. But beyond that,
Also, don't forget to rate and review us 5 stars only. If you don't give us 5 stars only, we'll obviously put you in a box and bury you alive, except for a tube of air. But for you, we'll fill the box with cockroaches.
I was thinking scorpions.
either is bad. I'm not going to lie. I don't know which I'd like.
We'll
less.
throw a mix of both in there for you.
Scorpions for me.
With that, we'll see you next week.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
May the wings of liberty never lose a feather.